Roy, and I was like, I'd be like, what are you doing? That's not your name.
Zach says, John Bishop here for naming his cat Fido. Did you name your cat Fido, John, even though that's a dog's name?
No, dogs squat on Fido, but no one squatted on Roy.
Dogs are squatting on Roy.
No, Roy is not a dog name.
Roy is a dog name.
Mornings with Sharp and Handley, the Connor Happer Show. Unsportsmanlike conduct. 6A to 6P, 1620. The Zone. Your Omaha area forecast from the Godfather's Pizza Weather Center and KETV Newswatch 7.
Can't rule out a spotty shower or thunder shower early and late on Tuesday. Otherwise, expect partly sunny, hot, and humid conditions throughout the day with highs around 90. I'm meteorologist Sean Everson from KETV Newswatch 7.
1620, The Zone. Traffic.
From the Pyramid Roofing Time-Saving Traffic Center. Good morning. Hope your Tuesday's off to a great start today. If you are taking off early this morning, the road's looking pretty good in the metro right now. Not seeing any noticeable delays from accidents, obstructions, or slow traffic buildup. As always, if anything changes, I'll get those changes to you. Just stay safe and wear that seatbelt. I'm Peter Krenzer.
This time-saving traffic was brought to you by Fernando's.
Reason number 87 to get your Fernando's fix during football season.
World Series? Never heard of her.
For tailgates, watch parties, or just an ordinary Saturday, get your Fernando's fix. FernandosOmaha.com.
Shop Sid Dillon Chevrolet, Nebraska's #1 volume Chevy dealer group. Visit us in Blair, Crete, Fremont, or Wahoo, or shop at SidDillonChevy.com. Together, let's drive.
You are what drives us, Sid Dillon.
Car repair is car repair. Most places you go can change your oil or fix your brakes. The difference is the experience you'll get at Omaha Car Care. We're part of the community. We were born here, and we believe that our relationship with you should be built to last. We're going to consult you, not sell you. We're going to give you a free loaner car. We're going to treat you like a valued friend that we want to continue to see in the years to come. I'm Rick Betker, owner of Omaha Car Care, and we'll be along for the ride.
Some people just know the best rate for you is a rate based on you with Allstate. And look at you, hands perfectly placed on the wheel. Not like the driver to the right of you who's really going after that drum solo. Save with DriveWise and the Allstate app and only pay a rate based on you.
Not available in every state, subject to terms and conditions. Rating factors and savings vary, and in some states your rate could increase with high-risk driving. Allstate Fire and Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates, Northbrook, Illinois.
I'm Taylor Bisciotti with NFL Network Now on the Westwood One Radio Network. Cowboys wide receiver C.D. Lamb's summer standoff has finally come to an end, agreeing to a 4-year, $136 million contract extension with $100 million guaranteed, according to NFL Network insiders Tom Pelissero and Ian Rappaport. The deal will pay Lamb the second highest average annual salary for a wide receiver at $34 million per year, coming in just behind the Vikings' Justin Jefferson. Lamb led the NFL with 135 receptions last season. Meantime, wide receiver Juju Smith-Schuster is back in Kansas City, signing with the Chiefs, according to Tom Pelissero. He was recently released by the Patriots and now reunites with the Chiefs, where he played in 2022. Browns running back Nick Chubb will start the season on the reserve physically unable to perform list and will miss at least the first 4 games of the season. Chubb is working his way back from a knee injury he suffered during Week 2 last season. This has been NFL Network Now on the Westwood One Radio Network.
1 in 4 Americans have a disability. I'm one of them. I'm also a working mom who cares deeply about making sure every child with a disability thrives by getting their access needs met. We've got a trusted ally by our side. Easter Seals provides children and families the foundation for lifelong success through early learning programs, skills training, and prep for college and career. That's my Easter Seals. Make it yours. Join us at easterseals.com.
Retired or retiring soon? How much money do you need to live comfortably? Retirement Planners of America is here for you. Would you like to have financial peace of mind? Here's how. Step 1. Find out the amount of money you'll need to retire. Step 2. Have a plan to get there. Step 3. Make sure that plan can take advantage of market gains but protect you from market losses. Discover how to do all 3 with a free consultation at 800-508-6108. That's 800-508-6108.
All investments involve risk, including losses. Past performance does not guarantee future.
Okay, raise your hand if you want to make your life a little bit easier. Great. Now raise your other hand if you like to be comfortable. Perfect. Now that you have both hands raised, imagine putting on your shoes. And that, folks, right there is your answer to an easier, more comfortable life. Go hands-free with Skechers Slip-ins. This is footwear you don't need your hands to put on. They can be raised in the air, and you can just step it and go. Why don't you experience what people can't stop talking about? Life-changing Skechers Slip-ins. Get your Slip-ins at a Skechers store, Skechers.com, or wherever stylish footwear is sold.
A few drinks at home after work. A couple hits at a party with some friends. Over-the-counter drugs for a minor illness. A new daily prescription, and you're not quite sure how it makes you feel. It doesn't just matter how much of a substance you take. If it impairs you, driving becomes deceptively dangerous. Don't drive impaired. Paid for by the NDOT Highway Safety Office.
I'd rather ride a bike with my kids.
Faster! I'd rather play catch with my dog than catch pneumococcal pneumonia.
Ask your doctor or pharmacist about Prevnar 20 pneumococcal 20-valent conjugate vaccine, a Pfizer vaccine that can help protect against pneumococcal pneumonia in just one dose. If you are 19 or older with certain chronic conditions like heart disease or asthma, you are at increased risk for pneumococcal pneumonia. Prevnar 20 is approved for adults to help prevent infections from 20 strains of the bacteria that cause pneumococcal pneumonia. Continued approval may depend on a supportive study. Don't get Prevnar 20 if you've had a severe allergic reaction to the vaccine or its ingredients. Adults with weakened immune systems may have a lower response to the vaccine. Side effects include pain and swelling at the injection site, fatigue, headache, muscle, and joint pain. For full prescribing information, please call 1-855-213-2138 or visit Prevnar20.com.
I'd rather race for some ice cream. Let's go.
Schedule your vaccination today at Prevnar20.com.
1620 The Zone.
Yeah, Dylan's going to
1620 The Zone's Red Out Week. Presented by Union Bank and Trust, where your money has people.
Yeah, Dylan's going to play. He's going to play the place, right? He's going to, when we call drop back, he's going to go back there, take his drop, go through his progression. Just how we want him to play when he's a junior. We're going to start day one that way. We're not easing into anything. They have their own saying. That's not mine. They say one better. And I think they've done that. You know, they try to get one better every day. I think Corey or someone did that, and they stick to it. We won 4 games in overtime. We're on the last possession. That's the secret sauce of where we have to get to with this team, right? So that's why I'm not easing into it. You know, I'm not going to just sit there and say, hey, Dylan, hand the ball off 42 times. Don't throw it. Oh, hey, go win the game for us.
Live from 50th and Capitol Avenue in the Big O. This is Mornings with Sharp and Handley on 1620 The Zone, 1620thezone.com, and 1620 The Zone TV. Now here's Gary, Nick, and Jimmy.
All those guys will be ready to go.
Hey, what just happened there? Somebody swear? Did we have somebody cut off?
No.
Bleeping them out?
No bleeps.
What did that rule say?
Just a laugh.
It's game week. What's happening here?
What is that?
That's
Going.
my alarm on my phone.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
The hell's going on here?
All right. Good morning, everybody. Welcome in. Yeah, the sound is really, really awkward this morning. That's always awkward.
Yeah. That was loud. Now I'm okay. I'm okay now. You good?
Yeah, the sound is really,
No?
really weird.
Yeah.
Like people
sounds
were saying this microphone where I sit and where John and Connor sit,
Mm-hmm.
even last week I got emails as I was catching up yesterday.
Yeah. Yeah.
I know
This
what you
mic
mean.
sucks.
Yeah.
And
Why don't they-
you're potted up all the way. So.
Yeah, they got to do something with this mic.
Well, first we thought
I'll
Austin
just
was...
sit here and listen. I'll be observer in a corner for the show, and
Takes notes.
I'll just chime in periodically.
Listener Gary
Just be the
texted.
background, like, yeah! The hype man back there. We were having issues. We thought Austin was talking away from it, but then even when he was talking
You know
into
what?
it was...
That can be an issue because of the way our studio is configured.
That's right.
We are not in a circular.
Right.
Like I
right.
like a circle. I don't like a side by side.
No, I don't like.
Yeah, like
got my
well,
back
like-
to you.
Like I'm not a side sitter. You know, when you go to a restaurant and you're with your significant other and they go, "Hey, would you like to sit on my side?" Hell no. Get the out. I'm sitting across from you so I can see you. So we're not sitting next to each other. I don't like turning. I would like this to be a circular studio. I've advocated that for a long time, to be like a real studio instead of two people sitting next to each other where you have to crane your neck and talk. And then, you know, it was a disease by a former person that used to be on this show that because they were looking, they would not be talking to the microphone. People are like, he's so soft. And I'm like, no, he's not. He's actually really tough. He's a tough guy. And they're like, no, he sounds soft. So whatever it is.
I dare them to tell that to that same guy.
We might have to fix. A guy did. His name was Hawkeye Chronicles.
Oh.
And he was going to meet him somewhere.
Was this someone in the parking lot? Was this the parking lot thing?
No, that was the Pens guy.
The Depends guy or Pens?
Pens.
Oh, okay. I thought you said
there was going to be a
Depends
throwdown.
guy.
It was going to be awesome. It was before we were making viral videos, but I would have been there with a film crew.
That would have been a very good video.
Yeah.
I saw something, by the way, of side-to-side sitting on Sunday. Remember I told you where I was at the Silver Sluggers Express?
Yeah, I don't even sit, by the way. Side saddle.
Oh,
That's why.
you don't even
that's
sit
why
when
I
you
don't.
eat?
That's why I don't own a truck. You got your seat. I got my seat. You know what? We'll get intimate.
You need bucket seats,
but not when I'm at a restaurant or
Oh,
when
it's
I'm
weird.
driving my truck.
So we saw I don't know if they were married. Maybe it was one of their first dates where you're really still feeling
oh my
it.
God, if they're side sitting on their first date,
it was annoying, man. They were side sitting and she was feeding him.
I think it's somebody had a lucky number that night.
Oh yeah.
Well, hold on.
She was feeding him.
Now, can I ask a serious
No,
question?
he wasn't that old. And he wasn't. He was.
Okay.
He looked like he could feed himself. I watched them walk out as we were. All of our family was saying goodbye.
Oh, this was
they
at
walked out.
Bonefish.
This was Silver Sluggers Express. Yes.
Is Bonefish the OnlyFans restaurant of Omaha?
It might be.
Whoa.
It might be, but yeah.
So these two,
I would say late 30s, early 40s were these two.
Good on them.
That's my age.
But
So
sitting
they
next
were-
to each other, and she was feeding him.
So they're having some public PDA?
Yeah.
We all have our things, I guess.
Yeah. My wife noticed it at first, and I said, God, it's just so weird sitting next to each other. And then she goes, oh, my God, she's feeding them too. I'm like, oh, okay.
Like, were they just
They've got a different
were they
relationship.
playful? Like, were they throwing shrimp in each other's mouth?
Was she feeding him like you fed Race back in the day?
Well, I wasn't zoned in on it like that, but I looked back, and yeah, she was. She had like a fork with something from her plate going into his mouth. Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Yep.
Where is she at this morning?
I think you probably know the answer to that.
I think I could get on to that.
Okay, so I don't feel so weird now.
I think I know how he's waking up this morning.
Hello. So are people like just staring at them? Because that's a little awkward for Bonefish, especially during a Silver Slugger happy hour.
Yeah.
Where you're looking to pick somebody up.
Right. I don't know how
True,
much
true.
attention.
I'm almost 60. I'm going to Bonefish between 4
No,
and
you
6.
weren't wrong. I told you the
There are-
average clientele is probably
There
55
are a
there.
lot of large portfolios that are hooking up.
Mhm. Yeah.
I'm a widow. I'm on my third marriage. I'm cheating on my husband. I'm going to go to Bonefish. I'm 62 years
Well, I figure
old.
what they do,
There's
they
going to
get-
be a 65-year-old guy that's been retired that's got a membership at Happy Hollow.
Yeah,
That's just
yes.
looking for a side piece.
I think that's what I think. A lot of them either are in the Happy Hollow area. They maybe play a round of golf. They come over to Bonefish, or what I also learned is some of them will go shopping around the Regency area, which a lot of those places I can't afford.
Yeah, the Dollar Tree is
And then-
not in the Regency.
It is not. And then they go to Bonefish for a good meal.
I do like Bonefish.
The Bang Bang. I have not had Bang Bang shrimp
You
for
recommend
such a
the
long
food?
time. Oh, the Bang Bang shrimp is amazing.
Yeah, everybody focus on the shrimp, and it's
It's
good.
good. It is very good.
It's like going to St. Elmo's with the shrimp. But there is the menu is pretty good. The
Yeah.
cocktails are pretty good. The atmosphere is always really good at Bonefish.
Mhm.
And especially if you're a little bit older and you go between 4 and 6 and you're looking for a hookup.
Hey, we were there at 5.
Dude,
Right in the middle.
dude,
Pretty good.
when I was there a couple years ago, I was like, oh my gosh. I'm like, is this speed dating at Bonefish?
So you guys recommend this for people watching because we're
I
80-year-olds disguised
well,
as 40-year-olds.
I mean, I think you don't necessarily like if you want to people watch, go to Walmart at 72nd and Pacific.
fair.
Yeah.
Have done that before.
Or just go to fairs right now. There's a lot of fairs going on.
Yeah.
State fairs are pretty good.
It
Yeah,
rained
but-
in Minnesota
But you know
yesterday.
what? I mean, I don't know. The fairs are very Americana. I don't people watch at fairs
Hmm.
because I'm one of them.
Oh yeah,
but-
I understand.
But I
am
don't
too.
know that I go to that type of restaurant to people watch. It just dawned on me because I saw a lot of people that were leaving together that didn't come there together. That was just my observation.
So you just recommend dinner
I have
and
pretty,
just take it in.
I have pretty good radar on that stuff.
Mhm.
But the food is pretty good as well.
It is.
So I highly recommend it.
I'm sold.
It'd be quite the experience for you.
Yes,
look it
but I did see again that was very weird, and they weren't of the older clientele. It's like I said, I think maybe late 30s, early 40s.
Okay.
And they were sitting next to each other. She was feeding them. They looked like they were in love, Gary. They walked out hand in hand.
Oh, that's okay. We
Then
need
they
more
They
love.
went from hand to hand to arm around arm
Yeah.
in a walk, which I think is very
Ooh,
very
okay.
odd
yeah.
too.
You know what? We have too much negativity out there. We need
That's
more
fine.
love.
It was
and
just
if
weird.
and if it starts at a Bonefish in Omaha, Nebraska, I'm okay for it.
Just sitting side to side is just something I don't know if I can do.
This looks delicious.
Now I'm not there, and I don't need that person to be feeding me as a sign of like foreplay.
Here, try this.
Yeah, I mean,
You'll love it.
The only time I tried to feed somebody that was a significant other was
a pet.
No, it was like one of my first relationships way back in the day, and I was like, hey, can you catch a dinner roll in your mouth?
Well, okay, that's
so I
fun.
toss like a dinner roll across the table.
Yeah, it's a sport. That's fun.
Yeah, my problem though, I didn't fully explain what I wanted, so it just off the forehead.
It's a very embarrassing moment for that person because they just got hit in the face with
sixth
food.
date kind of went.
Yeah. I'm sure I know how that night went.
All right. Good morning, everybody. Welcome in. It is Mornings with Sharp and Handley. Jimmy is here as well. On a Tuesday of game week, it is Troy Dumas days away from the start of the season between Nebraska and the team that's going to get $1.6 million to come to Lincoln. That would be the Texas El Paso.
It's D'Angelo Evans.
Ooh, this isn't it. I'm here for this mini debate with you too.
D'Angelo Evans is dead to a lot of people in the Nebraska program that played with him.
But he
no,
will
you
be,
don't. No, you don't mention his name.
He'll be on a team that Nebraska plays later, so they can get their revenge. He's on Northern Iowa. He played for Northern Iowa.
I mentioned a legend, and you mentioned a guy that
I like to reference obscure Husker.
Burned Memorial Stadium on his way out.
Well, I just like to refer to obscure Nebraska players.
All right, the Miners are coming. They're going to pick up $1.65 million for a paycheck to come to Lincoln. They are nearly 4-touchdown favorites. Yesterday was depth chart release day, and so much analysis. That's why I told you, don't look at the first teamers. Look at who's on the second team, and then also the first depth chart. And for the majority of depth charts that are released publicly, some do, some don't. Some release 37 guys are going to start on defense, which I'm no Dean Blandino, but I believe that's illegal.
Yep, it's penalty.
You take some with a grain of salt. You also, I think, I don't know this, but this is just my inkling that sometimes when you do a depth chart right after fall camp, ahead of the first game, is you reward some guys for a good camp and they end up on the depth chart. So people will talk about them. But when it's nut cutting time, people are not necessarily going to follow the depth chart on what you're going to use. But it's good fodder for game week. And I'm glad that, at least Nebraska releases something that looks something normal compared to like Clemson and Georgia did not release a depth chart. I don't know. Well, Michigan hasn't even named the quarterback yet.
Right.
I mean, Michigan might have other issues to worry about than a depth chart, but, Harbaugh never released a depth chart.
Yeah. That's just for the, I wouldn't even say it's for the fans. It's for the media to then give the fans something. But it's something that we've always expected. So, and this was as soon as we got off of the crossover yesterday, it had just released. So it was worth taking a look at. We were very accurate in our assessment of what we would see with the oars, and that would be squarely on the running back position. Which is the only one we've seen.
Which we will discuss, because I don't think anybody should be surprised.
I would totally agree.
But to kick off the morning, here's my thing. So I'm thinking about retiring.
Wow.
Like I really thought about retiring.
Whoa!
No, like
it's
seriously,
a breaking news thing.
like seriously, and maybe doing something else. And I think I may have found my calling today when I was driving in.
I'm listening.
I'm trying to guess. See anymore?
So it's in radio. So I love radio.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I
you want to be
love radio.
You want to be an FM morning DJ?
No, well, not really. I think I want to be a programmer because here's what I was doing. To have a good mood on a Tuesday, you get in the car and I always listen to music.
Yeah.
I don't really want to listen to sports talk or news or anything like that. I want to listen to music, and I listen to Sweet 98. I'm a big Sweet 98 fan.
Yeah,
but they're not on before 6. So they're just playing music, which is great. So I'll bounce around the dial. If I'm a programmer of a music station, this is what I would do. In the morning drive, and I know you got to have the zoo, and you got to have guy talk, and you got to do all of that stuff, and you got to give away tickets to the Tupperware party at Denise's house, and all that stuff that they do on the morning shows.
Shout out Denise.
What morning show are you listening to?
Morning shows in this town give away odd stuff. Like we give away stuff that our listeners want, like concerts and money and food. Like FM morning shows give away some of the oddest stuff. Hey, here's a chance to shop with Santa and Mrs. Claus, which would be kind of cool.
It would be, actually.
So
We should do
I'm just very observant.
Mhm.
But here's what I would do. So you got to intersperse the music and the talk and,
Yeah, sure.
and the fun of, let's play a game.
Yeah.
Guess what I ate last night?
Oh, that's
But
a
if
banger.
I was programming a FM music station, this dawned on me this morning. I would only play music that makes people happy.
Well, yeah, you
And
should.
my guy was on my radio this morning, and I rolled down the windows and absorbed the corn sweat while I was listening to Bruno Mars.
Which song?
I just heard it.
24 Karat Gold?
No.
Oh, I know that one.
God, what the? I just completely blanked on the song that I was listening to. But it was Bruno Mars.
Well, it must have been really good.
Yeah.
Was
I
the
know
song
how
he
it
sang
is.
in
I know-
Honeymoon in Vegas?
I know how it is, man.
No.
I know how it is.
So I would only program stations that have
Uptown Funk?
Yes.
Oh, there we go. All right.
Don't say that too fast.
Uptown will funk you up.
That's what I've been told.
So and
Uptown.
last night I heard Bruno Mars and it was Treasure. So I was like, okay.
Oh, okay.
No, this one too?
Treasure's good.
Yeah.
So I would only program music stations that have songs that uplift you.
But you're right. In the morning,
it
you need that.
changed my mood. I was like, okay, it's Tuesday.
Mhm.
I'm over any prep for the game. We talked ourselves into a circle. There's nothing else to talk about. And then Bruno came on my radio, and I'm like, this is going to be a good day. It's going to be a banger of a day.
I just feel like now Uptown Funk isn't a bad one, but I just feel like if you go to a station, all of a sudden you hear the tonight 24 Karat Gold. Is that a hot take? I don't know. 24 Karat
I don't
Gold
know
is
if
greater
that's,
than Uptown Funk.
I need a beat.
Yes,
I need a
I'll
beat.
go with you on that one.
I need a beat though.
Okay, like Uptown Funk. Yeah. Like,
I need something
I
to
keep
get me
saying
going.
Umptown. Why do I keep saying Umptown?
At least you don't.
Uptown. Sorry. There's an M that keeps making its way.
Now,
in.
on the heels of that, there is huge music news out there.
Hmm?
Did you guys hear who's coming back?
Morgan Wallen? I don't know.
That would be my guess too.
Morgan Wallen's been touring all over the country all summer.
I thought
What do you mean coming back?
Come back to Omaha.
Morgan Wallen is just dropping banger after banger.
Well, that's why I thought this would be
No, he's
huge.
not
This
coming
would be
back.
huge music news
No,
if he was
he's
coming
not coming
back.
back.
If he played at the Day Trader.
Oasis.
Oh, they're
go.
coming back as a band.
Yeah, Oasis.
Back.
So Oasis hasn't been around since what, 2009?
God, was it even that recent?
They're the last CD they put out was in 2008. But they're most known for Wonderwall and then Don't Look
Yeah.
Don't Look
Back.
Mark in Anger.
Yeah.
Well, no, Wonderwall too, but also
Don't Look Back in Anger.
Yeah.
Yeah, Wonderwall, those are their two biggest songs. So they haven't been out since 2009.
Mm-hmm.
And they announced yesterday that they're going to have a reunion tour, that they're getting
That's
back
amazing.
together, which I thought, you know what? Because I listened to them, and they also are part of one of my best hockey calls of all time.
Like this.
I don't have it.
Is this the Florida Panther guy?
I don't have it. No, this is my
Oh,
actual
you did one. Okay.
hockey call. Is somebody scored, and I went Champagne Supernova.
Yes. But see, that was the
Well done.
you guys completely glossed over Champagne Supernova. That was the first out of the gate for Oasis. Then we go to Wonderwall.
But Wonderwall is their biggest tune.
Yeah, I'd put Champagne Supernova, for me, number 2.
Well, that's why I said Wonderwall is number 1.
Yeah,
Then
but
you
you
can
guys,
have a
but you
number
guys
2.
said the other one. I don't know. You were talking about another song.
Don't Look Back in Anger is not bad.
Yeah, but I wouldn't put that in number 2 though. I couldn't even really tell you the lyrics to that one. Although Champagne Supernova, I probably couldn't either. Now,
But
been
here's
so far removed.
Think they get them at the state fair one day?
Here's the cool thing. No, I mean they're not a state fair band.
Later.
They're like a greater than Stir Cove band. They're greater than the Astro.
They're fringe. They're fringy.
I think
So you
Oasis.
do
I think
CHI?
Oasis in Omaha could fill the CHI.
Really? No.
I would go.
Oasis selling out the CHI Health Center.
They're back, baby. They haven't been out for a while.
I know, but
You wouldn't go if they
Still.
gave you
They
free
have-
tickets?
I'd go to
So-
anything if you give me free
Okay.
tickets. I'm saying, would people pay top dollar CHI ticket prices to see Oasis at the CHI Health Center? I'm going to say no. That's
right.
just me. Maybe I'm a skeptic.
Listener lounge it is.
They've been gone for a
You
while.
don't think that people in this town are hearing the news of Oasis and they're like, I've got to go get my Dig Out Your Soul CD,
No.
which I'm pretty sure that's the last CD they put out, and that's 15, 16 years ago.
No. I know not everybody is like me. People maybe were way more into Oasis, but can anybody name more than 2 or 3 songs?
I
from
got
Oasis?
Lila. I liked Lila.
I don't even
That's
know
all I
what
got.
Lila is.
It's a good song.
I
It's a
remember
banger.
Hey There, Delilah by the Plain White Tees.
Oh.
You know what? This is garbage what you're doing over there because you need to stop crying your heart out.
Oh God! Here we
If
go.
I had my wish, I wouldn't stand by you and I'd make you go away because I'm going to live forever. And you know what?
Wait, is this a Big Ten song?
Hey. And then when I take off, I'm going to be supersonic.
Oh, super! Oh, okay. Yep, that's not a bad.
We're changing your
no,
your
but
tune
still,
here.
but
I see.
I still don't think
Handley here for
many
Oasis.
people would be able to name more than 2 or 3 songs of see. I'm even saying the song now of Oasis.
That's the cover band.
Mid-90s,
Yes.
She's Electric.
I don't know that one.
Yeah, I don't either.
Well, I mean,
I'm surprised.
Acquiesce.
Nope.
These are all mid-90s.
Nope.
Oasis. Rock
Nope.
and Roll Star.
Not.
Clearly, I did not celebrate that entire catalog.
Maybe you were going through it, the stress of the football season around here, and you thought that Cigarettes and Alcohol was a really good song?
Can I ask you one question?
Don't go away.
They used to be a food group for me.
Where
back
were
in the day.
you while we were getting high?
I've never been high with you.
I know. Where were you while we were getting high?
I didn't get the invite for that. I don't ask for
Were you
much.
slowly walking down the hall? Faster than a cannonball.
Well, I bet knowing your system and you're not able to handle gummies, you had to go let it out.
Ken emails Oasis. Seriously, they couldn't sell out my garage.
Yeah, I think you're overselling the
I think I
the
would
popularity of Oasis.
I would go watch him in
Hey,
Ken's garage.
I think I would immediately block Ken on the stream.
Would they be a good?
You're just bitter because I got a great stat for you about Oasis coming back and
What's the great stats?
So
I didn't have this on the bingo card. A good Oasis stat. This
So
morning.
everything is about sports, right?
This is going to be a good day.
Okay. Oh yeah. Speaking of the CHI, I got issues. I'll explain a little bit later. I got major issues with that place, and it's not actually the place. It's something else about their operation downtown.
Uh-oh.
All right. So Oasis is coming back.
Would Oasis be a steel house?
Ooh, that could be a pretty cool show in that place.
I like the Steelhouse.
An evening with Oasis.
Yes.
I like the Steelhouse. Depends on if Creighton's playing at the CHI.
More bang for your buck.
Okay, so this is why because it hits too close to home that Oasis is coming back for you.
Oh, for me?
Yeah, since Oasis
You
was
think I'm too involved?
Since Oasis was last together, and I mean we live in a world where we have comebacks and reunions.
Oh,
and
yeah.
that's what we do.
Yeah, and then they're fine. They're usually pretty good.
So since Oasis was around, the Green Bay Packers have started 6 different quarterbacks. The Chicago Bears have started 17. Okay, that's why you don't like Oasis, because it reminds
17
you
in
about
15 years?
about
Oh,
how
yeah.
inept.
I'm surprised it's that. I'm surprised it's that few.
Christ, I thought 5 or 6.
I would have guessed 20. I'm sure Craig Krenzel's been starting in that mix.
So I get
Chad
it.
Hutchinson has been in that mix.
I get it.
It's exactly what it is, Gary. You nailed it.
Hey, I like Josh. Josh says Oasis is stadium size. It's huge.
No, it's not.
That's what she said.
Josh, come on, my man. It's not state. Well, okay, maybe are we considering like Buell Stadium? Okay, sure.
Whoa.
Oasis at Buell?
They can be
Whoa.
Buell Stadium.
Whoa.
Buell's what, about 765 if you count the little berm area on the visitor side.
I have seen videos of their concerts.
You're
They
very
did use the South
disparaging
Stadium.
to Buell.
Yeah, no. Oh, I'm sorry. Pawnee Field in Columbus.
Y'all don't understand. That's okay. That's okay. When they come to Omaha and you want tickets, we ain't got no tickets for y'all. All right? All tickets going to be gone. All tickets going to be gone.
I have a feeling I'll be able to find tickets easily to that.
You know what you guys should go to? Because it's UTEP week. Go see Marty Robbins in concert.
All right. Shout out Marty Robbins.
Question. Who's Marty Robbins?
Oh.
Just going to ask the question that I feel like might be on other people's mind.
You have, okay.
Can you give me a Marty Robbins reference? How might I know Marty Robbins?
Because he's familiar with a West Texas town called El Paso.
Yeah.
Oh,
And he
is it
fell in love with a Mexican girl.
Okay.
And many have
Is that
there.
who that is?
Nighttime would find me in Rose's Cantina.
Okay.
Music would play and Felina would whirl.
And then you go to Juarez and have a night.
Okay. Okay, yeah.
Mountain Time.
There also happens to be a school in El Paso, and they happen to be playing in Lincoln.
Yes,
on Saturday.
they do.
They also have one of the coolest
Hail
high school
Paso.
stadiums in Texas.
Oh,
Yeah.
that? Yeah.
They also are home to the Sun Bowl.
Oh, yes, that I think everyone knows, including yours truly. But I did not know. Yes. I didn't know it was Marty Robbins. Yeah.
Can I ask you a question here?
Sure.
Who did you think sang this song?
Just some random country dude that was that has been dead since probably before I graduated, which was 1997.
Bob Devaney was not even coaching at Nebraska. All right. Let me give a lot of
He died in 82. I was right. Wow.
I didn't realize.
Yeah, but this song is played kind of regularly, right?
Yeah.
Sweet sometimes plays it.
Okay, here's the true question.
This
is there a Marty Robbins cover band?
Could start one.
I'll have to get back to you on
All
that
right,
one.
all right, let me know.
And call it Tim Robbins.
Oh. Not to be confused with
Pearl
Nicola
Jam's
Rouge.
original name was Mookie Blaylock.
I'm gonna do a little fact checking on that one in the break.
It's
all right.
true.
So Josh says they are playing stadiums, by the way, Oasis. This shocks me.
In England, they're
Absolutely
they're
shocks
still
me.
huge.
I'm feeling a little bit of jealousy when they
I'm not.
when they sell out Wembley Stadium. You're like, oh my god, I haven't seen a crowd like that since Live
Live
Aid.
Aid.
You're gonna be like, whoa,
Hey, jealousy?
can't they come to Omaha?
If they come to Omaha, the CHI Health Center, y'all enjoy it.
You'll
But
do it.
unless
Hey.
you want to give me free tickets. Actually, cheapest ticket I ever paid.
I believe that's illegal.
Well, no, I'm not saying,
Oh.
if someone's like, hey, you know what? I can't get rid of these things. You want them? Handley, I know you're not going to pay money for them. So here you go. You can enjoy Oasis and you can learn about more than 2 songs. Oh, is that the Beatles? No, that's Oasis.
Well, I'm just
Trying to be the Beatles.
Whew. Just looking at the stream, I agree with the people. Backbeat the word on the street. Nick's a little. That fire in your heart is out. I'm sure you've heard it all before, but you never really had a doubt. I don't believe that anybody feels the way I do about you now.
About you now.
Oh, yes. Yes, yes, yes. All right, Sam McEwen's going to join us in an hour.
Get his take on Marty Robbins.
Yeah.
Doesn't strike me as a Marty Robbins guy, but there aren't a lot of songs out there that are written about El Paso.
Should be.
That song's actually in the old college football video game that's played by the UTEP band.
Oh, really?
Mhm.
Okay.
So you've heard it many times, just
Just
didn't know it.
know. Well, again, I've heard that song too. Just didn't know who the singer was, nor did I really care.
Jam
Just
out to
thought,
it
hey,
Saturday on the way to Lincoln.
This just reminds me of old country.
I know what you're going to ask me. He wasn't the guy that died in the plane crash in Iowa. Sam McEwen coming up at 7:30.
I'm well aware.
Brian Christopherson will join us
Seen
at
La Bamba.
9. That is the lineup brought to you by the rooferees at John Higgins Weather Guard. When we return,
This feels like a Friday show.
today is going to be the day that I'm going to throw it back to a break after this. Just hits differently. All right, welcome back in. Welcome back, Oasis. 6:40 on a Tuesday morning of the opening week of college football. We're back, baby.
I just got called a musical moron.
Well, that sucks.
Yeah,
Oh, I never
know.
thought this is what we're
Oasis will be selling out stadiums all over the world. I just want to know if they'd sell out CHI Health Center because I have my doubts. But if that makes me a musical moron, I'll wear it. Maybe I am underselling Oasis, but my God.
Next year, maybe the Shadow Ridge Music Festival. They're getting OAR this year. You have Oasis next year.
Yeah, I saw that they're going to be at Principality Stadium, Cardiff Principality Stadium for a second. I thought Principal Park in Des Moines. But yeah, okay, that sounds about right.
They'll be bigger than the Savannah Bananas. We are back, by the way, in college football. I was perusing lines yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
Ohio State is a 50-point favorite. But do you know what the total is for that game?
65.
The total is 58.
So they won't score.
So I'm thinking in the range of 52-3.
55-3 if they want
That is a sign that we are back, baby, with college football. Sam McEwen will stop by at 7:30.
Saw it. It went up to 59.5, actually.
It did?
Yeah, it's 59.5 now.
Didn't Hawaii
a lot of sweet action coming in on this.
You're a 50-point favorite, and the total is 59.5.
It's not very. It's not speaking very kindly of Akron.
Just go collect your paycheck.
Just saying. It's a good number, though.
Akron football will always have a place in Nebraska history.
Absolutely.
Still waiting for that game.
We could have. Man, what would we be talking about today if that game had happened?
Just extra game.
You know what we'd be talking about? Thank God there's a guy here that pays attention to detail. Whether this works or not, Lincoln, I will say this. When the head guy speaks, I am always impressed by his attention to detail.
Mm-hmm.
Like he is not like Ben, oh my God, I'm surprised by that. Especially in those kind of settings with the press conference. Like yesterday, he's breaking things down. I mean, we go from iPads to a 3-3-5 and not having confidence in being able to stop pass rushers. I'm like, he leaves no stone unturned. So that's why I'm not worried about UTEP coming in here with a different kind of offense and a little bit of the unknown when they're going against Nebraska's defense, because they are big on attention to detail. And they also have a defensive coordinator, which I think this is one of the strengths of Tony White and his defensive staff, is they do a good job of adjusting in game. They don't wait to get into the locker room to make changes. They have a mature defense, and they're good as a staff as a whole that they can make changes on the fly if need be. So I'm not worried about that. But man, every time Rule talks, the attention to detail, just normalcy. I mean,
right?
Yeah. Some guys don't do well on Monday, but they're really good coaches. Boy, Rule has a handle on this. That's why. You want me to sing? Don't be letting us down, Matt Rule.
Don't let me down, Rule.
Not an Oasis song.
Yeah.
There is. This is an interesting day in college football because Netflix is dropping the Connor Stallions piece. Some have already seen it.
Again?
Connor Stallions might be an absolute and complete liar.
Did you see it?
I've seen clips. I've seen extended clips of it. It will make you believe that nobody above him knew and that he was kind of rogue and that he's out there.
Okay.
It does not get to the white whale.
Really?
And the NCAA has no interest in talking to him.
Which is interesting from a standpoint of, if you're willing to talk, is the narrative, we only want you to talk if it's going to fit our narrative. And that is, we'll listen to you if you will name names. And that's what I think it is. If you are willing to name names, we'll listen to you. If you are still going to continue to say that you're rogue, which we do not believe you were, we're not interested in what you have to say.
Just listening to him, he may have a screw or two loose.
Rule?
No.
Oh,
Connor Stallions.
oh, for a second.
Connor Stallions.
Hold
Stay with
on
us
here.
now.
Okay.
Yeah, I could. There's brazen, and then there is just having some sort of, is chemical imbalance too harsh? Having just a little bit thing going on there in your head that makes you feel like, you know what? I'm going to take this all the way to a sideline of the opposing team and see if I get caught. And in front of, around a staff with a guy who knows me, and Jim McElwain too. Let's just see how far I can take this. They always talk about that's the excitement of a criminal, is when they first get away with something, they want to see how much they can actually continue before they actually get caught. So they're going to continue to push the limits. I think there's a little bit of a criminal mindset there. I'm not saying he's an actual criminal, but I think there's a little criminal mindset there.
I just think people may look at him differently after this.
Okay.
But it does not answer the question of, did anybody above him know what he was doing? But he said the NCAA has no interest in talking to me.
So then they're going to have to come out with a statement after this is released and say why they either have reached out to him, but he hasn't returned the call. I'm assuming they will say that's actually inaccurate. We've reached out to him many times. You know how this is going to go, because people are going to be like, don't you want to get to the bottom of this? And the NCAA is going to have some type of clever
Or the
response.
NCAA says we don't need him.
Yeah.
We have all the evidence we need in the case we are pursuing against Michigan, which, we don't need a Connor Stallions. This is a separate case that we have all the evidence needed, and we've already given them our findings, our notice of allegations.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't need this guy.
But if you then have a guy that is the central figure in this whole thing saying, all right, yeah, Harbaugh knew about it, told me, then they've got even more to throw on to the top of the case. If he doesn't say anything and says, no, I was rogue, well, they're like, well, okay, you're not adding anything more than what we already have as part of our case. So
I'll be curious when people see this, what they think of him. Don't, what do you think of, what Michigan's role was? What do you think of the individual?
Well, and he's got, correct me if I'm wrong.
I don't think he'd be very good playing poker.
Was he wearing the same sunglasses he wore on the Central Michigan sideline? Because you'll never see his face. No, correct me if I'm wrong. He had, and I'm assuming this will be part of the Netflix special on him. He has a military background, right? Of being able to, and part of his thing was being able to expose vulnerabilities in people's security and defense.
And loves Michigan.
Oh.
Comes across, loves Michigan. So whatever
He's a Michigan man.
Whatever's going on between the NCAA and Michigan, I don't think will be resolved until the spring. I wonder if people in Indianapolis who are just, on their last legs of enforcement, when Harbaugh was very nonchalant, somebody said, this is our goodbye. This is what we're going to do. I don't think anything that's coming out will be resolved until the spring. And I want to think that the hammer's going to come down, but I won't believe it until I see it, just because of past history with the NCAA. But there's some serious stuff in there. But the nonchalant of the guy that used to run the program, if I was an enforcement person, I'd be like,
I'm just curious as a organization on how much abuse you can take before, whether it's a smug attitude towards something that is pretty significant when it comes to breaking rules and gamesmanship and all of that stuff, that you go to certain lengths to gain an advantage in your scouting and your preparation. I think there's probably something to that. But I just think that this is a cumulative effect of the NCAA, because yes, you're right. Their days of enforcement are winding down. Are you just going to go out the way that the narrative has always been about you? And that has been exactly what you said. I'll believe it when I see it. There's a lot of tough talk, and especially in those notice of allegations, those things come across, and Michigan's not the first one where notice of allegations have come across and you're like, damn, this might be something. And I'll have this one seared into my brain because it was one of the most fascinating cases and something that looked like it had Miami. I don't think the NCAA was ever going to enforce the death penalty after SMU. I think they realize we just can't do that, especially when you're punishing people that are no longer part of the administration. But Miami was as close to getting the death penalty as any program would with the Nevin Shapiro part. And the way that they bungled that whole thing, when you literally had a guy in prison, Nevin Shapiro, a Ponzi schemer who was willing to talk, yet you were basically trying to tell him what to say so you could fill in certain pieces. So it's not even the fact that they don't have the teeth to do it. It's, in a way, it's been sort of Keystone Cop-esque. But I do wonder, at some point, you would think that there still are enough resources there that they would get one right. And so with all of these options to choose from, whether they're of high level or very ticky-tack stuff, which I feel like the NCAA usually does the ticky-tack stuff somewhat well, or at least maybe almost too well, there is something about that last-ditch effort before you go away of, I'm not ready to completely say they won't at least make an attempt to hammer Michigan. I'm a lot more interested in this one than I have been in years because of the fact that this is essentially their last hurrah.
Husker Dave, this is a good question that probably will just go unanswered. As he said, the unanswered question is who financed him. What do you think about this? Friend Adam brought this up a while back about Sharon Moore.
Mm-hmm.
Is they put him in that position because they knew this was going to happen, and then they could move on to a real coach. Adam didn't say real coach, but a coach that they had to go outside to hire, right, instead of somebody going, oh man, it is Michigan, but instead hire the guy that they know is involved, and if he has to take a fall, he takes a fall. And then you can go and hire a coach that you would like to have.
I don't think that's crazy at all. I don't think that's crazy
at
all.
He said that a while back, and I paused and I was like, ooh, I see how, knowing Ward Manuel and his relationship with Harbaugh, and they got a title, and then what's going to come in the next phase?
Right.
You could convince me.
Yeah, I mean, you got everything you wanted out of it. I think there's something to that, but also the fact that you don't want to have this huge drop off from a national championship year, so you keep continuity, but you also know if you're Ward Manuel that this thing ain't going away anytime. So this is a temporary hire. This isn't the hire for the next Michigan man. Oh yeah, I think that can make a lot of sense, especially now that we're seeing, because I was under the impression, and this is where I think I am wrong, is when the Big Ten enforced the suspension at the end of the regular season, that I thought they being the Big Ten, did the NCAA a big favor, where the NCAA said, okay, now we can kind of walk away from this thing because Big Ten put a suspension on them. We can move on to other stuff or just continue to collect our money until it's no longer our time anymore.
Yep.
When they did almost go even more all in on this, that's where I think all bets are off, that's where I think you can look at different scenarios of, well, if that was always the tone from the NCAA, Michigan probably knew this. Ward Manuel probably knew that this thing wasn't going away. So as any leader anticipating, seeing stuff that could be coming down the pike, whether it's in the next 3 months or the next 10 months, you make decisions accordingly, right?
Yeah. But it's out today, and I'll be curious when people watch it, what you think of the individual, if he's convincing enough. Nobody really wants to talk to him. So, like,
he's got a new coaching gig, coaching high school football.
I thought he lost that.
Did he lose it already?
Well, I thought the parents were not happy.
Did he get the Art Briles treatment?
Well, I mean, he was doing it for free, so it didn't cost him any money. Didn't cost the boosters any money. Let's see. Did he get fired from that, or at least I let go? Because that was like last week is when it was announced.
I guess there was a pushback from parents.
Let's see.
So we're going to hire him here at the Zone.
That's everything I'm seeing is still him coaching.
I'd hate to be their opponent. I wonder if their opponent had a soap scrimmage. All right, Jimmy's got an update coming up next. When we come back, leading up to Sam McEwen coming up at 7:30. Depth chart is out. Couple of interesting things on there. I know running back got a lot of talk. You really shouldn't be surprised that there was an or, and it didn't belong to PJ Fleck at running back.
Yeah, Rowan.
But there's an odd man out. There will be an odd man out in the 3-week tryout before the Big Ten. Who will that be at running back? We'll get into that and much more. Brian Christopherson stops by a little bit later on 1620 The Zone.
It's volleyball time in Nebraska as the Huskers begin their season in a primetime season opening event. The AVCA First Serve Showcase tonight at the Yum Center in Louisville. They will play Kentucky, who's number 9 in the country, at 6 p.m. So that's the first match. That's always good. Wisconsin will face Louisville in the second match. All 4 teams participating are ranked in the top 10. Thus, they're there. If you like volleyball, you'll like it. Storm Chasers outfielder forgot to say this yesterday. This is cool. Tyler Gentry made his big league debut for the Royals Sunday in their World Series preview match with the Phillies, the 4th Storm Chaser to debut in the major leagues with the Royals this season. He joined the Royals for the series finale and entered the game Sunday as a pinch hitter for MJ Melendez. We've heard of him. In the 8th inning, he flied out to right field on the first pitch off his at-bat, playing in the 9th in right field. At least he didn't strike out.
Would you guys like a little insight on the upcoming homestand for the Storm Chasers?
I would.
They are playing the St. Paul Saints.
Okay.
A little birdie from up north that I used to work with told me that Byron Buxton at some point this weekend will be in Omaha on a rehab assignment for the St. Paul Saints.
That's the thing about Byron Buxton. He's always on a rehab assignment.
Yeah, guy can't stay healthy.
Yeah.
They can't. I mean, look at
He'll get healthy just in time.
The Royals are ascending. The Royals are plus 195 to win the American League Central right now. They're within a game.
Hey.
They swept the doubleheader yesterday. Look at Cleveland scuttering. And the Twins have had a bad week plus. And the Royals, even though they lost the last 2 in the Philly series, I mean, sweeping the doubleheader yesterday with Mr. Cooperstown Salvi.
Game 1, Bobby Witt. Bob. Game 1, Bob. Game 2, Salvi.
With the long season, the ups and downs, it is crazy that now all of a sudden the Royals are in that position. But I'm got to watch out for the Twins. They got bludgeoned last night, and Ober wasn't very good. But Byron Buxton could be in Omaha at some point this week for all the Twins fans out there.
I will real quickly give an honest take about the team that I root so passionately for in Cleveland. This is what
yesterday.
Worried me is at some point between the inability of Tristan McKenzie to develop into a big leaguer, consistent pitcher, and also the loss of Shane Bieber, that starting pitching is very streaky. Their bullpen, which has just been amazing, is now getting taxed. And nothing has changed with that offense. Even with John Kenzie Noel, it's a streaky offense.
But yesterday, why in a pretty important doubleheader, why a bullpen game
the big old bullpen
and a Logan Allen?
Right. Your question is a valid one. Only Stephen Vogt could answer that one. So maybe they're really all in on today and tomorrow. That's where they're going to really treat it like doubleheaders. It's too much on our guys. We're going to make. But this is the only way that. This is why I said if they relinquish the lead, that I don't think they get it back. The only way that they could sustain this is if they had a massive lead in the AL Central, because at some point, the way that pitching staff has been built between the injuries, and it hasn't just been Shane Bieber too. I mean, you've had Bibby's been on and off the IL as well. And without Tristan McKenzie just being able to get out of the 3rd inning, at some point you were going to put more stress on your bullpen. It's been so good, but at some point that bullpen, especially as you get to September and October, was going to falter unless you had explosive offense. And unfortunately, they didn't do anything at the trade deadline that was going to massively improve that.
There will be playoff baseball in Kansas City. The Red Sox would have to go 22-9, even if the Royals are just 500.
Now the only question is, will they go in as the AL Central champs or will they go in as a wild card? I'm convinced. I'm right there with you on the Royals playing postseason baseball. To me, that's the only question right now.
The eventual AL Central champion Royals.
Now watch how the Royals have gone. They'll end up splitting the series. So the Guardians will win the last 2.
There you go, Nick. So. All is well. They won game 1 4-3.
Hey, baseball was
back to where we started in the series.
Baseball was great last night. I had a nice night of baseball. That was good baseball. I like me stealing 8 bags,
21 hits,
18 runs.
I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Pete Crow Armstrong. Thank you, Javi Baez. If Javi Baez didn't want out of Chicago and we had to trade him, we would have never gotten Pete Crow Armstrong.
I think it was
and now Javi's out for the year with a hip injury on the heels of his worst year ever.
One of the better things that Murphy's always seems to do when they welcome old players, and I did see the welcome back Javi. We do not miss that batting average.
All right, but for Twins fans out there, and Schwellenbach pitches tonight against the Twins at Target Field. Byron Buxton. I don't know. It might be a game or two, but I think he's going to be here in Omaha
still pretty
on a
close to
rehab
see him
assignment.
So stay tuned. That series starts tonight. I guess I missed this till this morning. It's just because they're going to go 8-8 forever. Cowboys wide receiver CD Lamb ended his holdout, agreed to a 4-year, $136 million deal. Wait.
Need it. I need
did
it. He's my number one pick accidentally in the NFL in our little Fremont Fred draft.
Conveniently, right after training camp ends. It's a veteran move.
Oh, yeah. Now he's motivated. He's going to just be a stud.
So, I mean, wide receivers, videos killed the rock star.
Mm-hmm.
Wide receivers have killed the running back. You look at wide receiver pay compared to running back pay.
Yep.
CD Lamb, $38 million. The 7 wide receivers for the Green Bay Packers make $7 million total.
Mm-hmm. So, you take that for what it's worth, too. By the way, speaking of which, I also have Christian Watson, too. So he needs to be good this year.
I had him in my queue. We're in the for people who don't know, we're in the same fantasy football league. I had him in my queue.
Sorry, I took him from you.
Oh, that's okay.
Yeah,
sure. That's okay.
Sure, he'll get injured again.
Ooh, wow! Already
a lot of soft tissue guy. He's a soft tissue guy.
Man,
it's okay.
More and more, he sounds like me every day.
Well, it's okay.
I'm the one who woke up in a good mood.
No, I was very excited about this.
Listen to Bruno Mars on the drive-in; it'll change your life.
I was very excited about the CD Lamb news yesterday. So, it was yesterday. Yeah, I was very excited about that.
$38 million signing bonus.
Now I know. Now I know he's going to play.
They had to, but they live in drama.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
Like there are some people, like you probably have friends that are married or in relationships where they just love drama.
Oh yeah.
You from the outside, you look at the relationship and go, "Oh my God,
Mm-hmm.
they need to go separate ways." But both parties like thrive on drama.
Yeah.
Jerry Jones thrives on drama.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in his case, I don't know that it's good for them, but they love themselves some drama because they're going to let this Dak thing go the entire season, in my opinion.
Yep. I think Jerry thinks in probably some way that this is the ultimate motivating factor for Dak Prescott to take them to a Super Bowl, where in reality, that's probably not the best way to go about handling a professional. But hey, that's just me. I'm not a billionaire.
Do you know anybody that had they love drama in relationships, like they're meant for each other?
Absolutely.
Yep. What's their names?
Not no. They're not together anymore.
Yeah, I like to hear relationship drama where both sides are just bat blank crazy, and they both they're perfect for each other.
Yeah, I can't say names because I know one of them listens to our show.
Hey, good morning.
So I can't say names.
All right, so his name's Carl. All right,
Carl, crazy Carl. We'll call him Carl.
What's is it his wife?
Carl.
It's both of them. Well, it's more her.
He has two wives?
No, it's.
I don't think that's legal in Nebraska.
No, we're not in Utah. It's more
BYU's going to be tough this year, though.
Because of the bottle. But then he has to react accordingly, and then he turns gets a little.
Are we talking alcoholism
or baby bottle?
I just want to check here because
there have been moments where I think could be a problem.
Okay, all right.
Let's just say it leads to a lot of when any of us are social with them. That typically leads to a lot of moments where we're like, all right, so good seeing everybody. We're gonna head home.
I was kind of looking for more uplifting drama. That seems to be like a little.
Oh, it's. I mean, there have been entertaining stories that have come out of it.
Like,
just random conversations with strangers that then creates jealousy.
Perfect.
Yeah, stuff like that. Then like I said, then the husband has to respond.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
That's kind of Jerry Jones.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's that stuff.
It's over.
By the way, this is not me and my wife.
No, you guys have a great relationship.
Yeah.
No, I
would feel like, wait a minute, are you talking about yourself?
If you were a drama king, your wife would have kicked you to the curb quickly.
Yeah.
She's a good woman.
Yeah. I'd like to think so.
Like I said, I knew this day was going to be a good day, and so far, I'm absolutely right.
I'm not hitting on his wife.
I didn't think you were.
Yeah.
That never crossed my mind.
No, I never would.
I think you're just basically saying like any man who has a good woman
and
that I outkicked my coverage.
Your wife is a wonderful wife and a wonderful mom.
Thank you.
Who just happened to go to a school in Cedar Falls. I couldn't.
There was the but. There was the but. I get it.
Oh, let's see. Finally.
She actually could be listening right now too.
Hey, good morning, Jenny. The Cowboys are going 8-1 this year, but you knew that. Finally, the Big Ten will no longer use divisions, and since added all those former teams to a code of 41 teams this year, if two teams are tied in the Big Ten standings, the following steps will be taken until the participants are decided. Get out your crayon and your notepad. Here you go. Number one, the tied teams will be compared based on head-to-head matchups during the season. Number two, the tied teams will be compared based on record against all common conference opponents. Number three, tied teams will be compared based on record against common opponents with the best conference record, and proceeding through the common conference opponents based on the order of their finish within the conference standings who play their home games north of the Mason-Dixon line.
I want to get to number 6.
We're getting there. Number 4, the tied teams will be compared based on the best cumulative conference winning percentage of all conference opponents. Number 5 gets better. The representative will be chosen based on the highest ranking by Sports Source Analytics team rating score metric following the regular season. And finally, number 6, the representative will be chosen by random draw among the tied teams conducted by the commissioner or designee. That's what we need.
I want that.
That is what we need.
I really want that. The first year of no divisions, I want that
You
somehow,
want
some
chaos,
way.
I give you this.
I understand the chances of that happening are, I probably have a better chance of getting struck 2,700 times by lightning in my life than that, and the chances that I would survive that. But how fun would that be? That reminds me of the old Friday Night Lights where they have to flip a coin to decide the 3-way tie to two teams that will represent the district to go to the state playoffs, and they have to do it in a closed caption thing. They got to do it at an unannounced truck stop because you can't know. I want this to happen so bad.
Or the
if not in the
73
Big Ten, in some conference where it's just like, all right, and they do it on their network. Dave Revson's got this big old, it's just a Big Ten football helmet. It's the one that they always have at the press conference at Media Day. He's got the Big Ten helmet in there. The teams are in there, and all of a sudden he goes like this, pulls it out, unveils it, and then all of a sudden we have our tiebreaker. I want this so bad. Remember drama? There you go.
Life was so much simpler when we just had Champions Week.
I like
You know,
Champions.
BTN has a documentary on Ohio State and Michigan being tied.
That was technically the last time Nebraska was in the postseason.
If you consider the postseason going to New Jersey on a bitterly cold Friday night the week before
it
Christmas.
wasn't part of the regular season.
Yeah.
Everybody says last postseason appearance was in 2016. Is actually in the COVID year. Thank you very much.
All right. Thanks, Jimmy. So yesterday the depth chart was released. Before I mention what I think it looks like at running back, temperature of the fan base, was it a good thing or a bad thing that there were 4 oars, or there's we backs yesterday?
There are several we backs.
Because I will spin this in a certain way, but I'm just curious if you felt negativity or okay.
I was sensing
and
more
if you did
of
in
the,
that voice, okay.
I sense more of the okay. For the fact, I think in other years that would make you a little bit more squeamish.
What are other years? Because I'm going to debunk something.
Years
here.
where
let's no, we're going to have a reality check on the show. Okay. Sometimes you pay for your past sins. We all do that, even if you're Catholic, like myself. I thought you could go and long story. But sometimes you pay for your past sins, and you try and while you're making up for them, you've got to actually do the job. Nebraska is in a situation in 2024 where bad luck, injuries, poor evaluation, recruiting, development, all that stuff is going to impact them at 2 particular positions, running back and offensive tackle. And you just hope that you got to stay healthy, but it's not maybe your fault. Maybe it kind of is, but it's coming to roost. I like that word.
The chickens are.
That's a shout out to my grandpa. I used to use that word all the time. So I'm going to say in this case, where Nebraska, which was known for their eye backs, it has been few and far between that Nebraska has had a big-time home run hitter at running back. We've thought they were coming into the mix, and then something happens. That's why I was so enamored last recruiting cycle with Kwan Lacey, because I thought Kwan Lacey was that guy. Did not work out. They are few and far between at running back right now at Nebraska. So I'm not surprised that nobody has separated themselves, and I'll spin it in a good way, is that they have options and they have depth. You might say, well, you don't have a number 1 or a number 2. You got 4 guys. You have one certain situational guy, And then you have three guys battling it out. I think Emmett Johnson is the number one running back. But by the time this 3-week tryout is done, Dowdell will be your number one running back at Nebraska.
Okay. Now, I will even take that a step further as far as why I don't think it is the worst thing with it. And it was more of a, okay, because in previous years when you've had, and I think maybe one of the better examples would be Gabe Irvin's freshman year when, remember, Marquise Stepp was here as well. Then he had the ankle issue during spring, so there was a setback there, and it became a revolving door between injuries and guys that just could not take the position over. Remember, I think at that point, quarterback-wise, people essentially knew what Adrian could and could not do with not only his abilities, but the weapons around him. I feel like if you are convinced that Dylan Raiola is a upgrade at the quarterback position and the wide receiving group is an upgrade that you do not look at. You do not look at the running back with so much, oh my God, why is there not a lockstep number one that can turn the 4-yard gain into an 80-yard gain like Matt Rule wants?
I'm going to go back. The two things you said are givens. The wide receiver room is the most upgraded position that Nebraska has. Okay. Quarterback, the guy yesterday is Giddy. So I just want to,
right.
You shouldn't be, that's a given. That shouldn't be. If you're thinking that what you just said, those two are givens.
I would like to think that's the case, but I know there are still people that are, because of Nebraska football, not necessarily the quarterback position itself, but Nebraska football. And how bad the quarterback position was, that some people, not myself, are having a tough time going all in on the true freshman year of Dylan Raiola will, be so much more monumental that you do need maybe that added support with a, marquee running back. I think that does change the basic narrative though, or at least the majority of the fan bases ease on not having a number one running back emerge out of it because of what you have at Q and what you have at wide receiver.
I don't know why anybody's hesitant about Raiola.
I don't either, but I keep hearing this when I talk to people of, so you think a true freshman is ready for that? Yeah, I do.
Okay. Let me have a moment here. And it's not me. Did you listen to the man wearing wristbands in El Paso, Texas yesterday?
Yes.
Which I'd be very disappointed if Scotty Waldwin is not on the sidelines and he doesn't have his wristbands on. Because he must have just come from the practice field. That must be a system they have.
Yeah.
But I as he was talking about Nebraska and the quarterback, I couldn't get over the wristbands. Here's a guy who went out of his way to praise a player who hasn't played a college football game. Right. And all he has seen is a spring game.
Yep.
Okay? And Dylan is a better quarterback than he was back at the end of April. That is a given for anybody that has seen the last month. So if an opposing coach is talking about a true freshman, and I don't need Superman this year. Superman's probably got to show up next year. I just need a guy that is built for this moment, that is older than you think, and you got a head coach who, why don't we believe, and I'm not singling you out, but there's a lot of stuff when Rule talks, you go, oh yeah.
Yeah.
The man is downright giddy about his quarterback, who is an emerging star. Nebraska football hasn't had a true star in a long time. They got a guy that is a potential star at quarterback, and the head coach is giddy about him. But he says it in a manner that he doesn't go over the top. We'll believe in other things about Rule,
that's a good point. No,
but we don't believe when he is giddy and he talks about his quarterback the way he does. We're like, I don't know. Stop.
So I said this last week, same premise of, I understand in the past. This is where you got to put that argument, the whole past.
We got to stop this.
I agree. I totally agree.
We've all been burned. Okay. We've all been kicked in the gut. You know what? Our cod piece is gone now. We're raw.
I
but
totally
at
agree
some
with what you're saying.
point, you have to accept the fact that Nebraska looks different. And I'm not saying do it before the game. You might, and I've said it might not be until Columbus is the game where I go, Nebraska's different. But at some point, you got to change that mindset. And if this is on you. You've got ears, you've got You got eyes. There's a vibe that is different. Okay. What is that going to mean in the upcoming season? Who the hell knows? But the vibe is different, that it doesn't feel like the past.
Yeah.
Okay.
I essentially said the exact same thing. We have to get over that. You have to get over.
You have to accept that Nebraska football might be turning the corner.
Yeah.
And it's okay to say that.
And the fact that
put yourself out there and be raw again.
Agreed. Everything you're saying, because I feel like I'm taking crazy pills when I don't. It's almost as if you have to defend Dylan Raiola because of the past at that position that he had nothing to do with. And look, we all have, whether it's Nebraska, other teams that we root so passionately for, and we've been burned by them. So when something seems too good to be true, we assume that it's not. Hey, I've been victim of that.
Nebraska football can have good things, people.
Yes, they can. Exactly. Okay, 100. That's exactly what my point was last week of it's okay to go all in on Dylan Raiola. It's okay. I get it. He's a freshman. Okay, I get that. But he is brought up differently. He has been primed for this moment. And because I was going off of what Matt Rule said last week when this is the first step, and I think, what did he say? A beautiful path or a beautiful relationship. He used the word beautiful. That I think that there is no problem in holding this true freshman to much higher standards than what you have seen for anybody who has played that position based on what your eyes tell you, what you hear around him, but also the path leading up to this for this moment for him. It's okay. That doesn't mean he's going to be perfect every game out. As long as you understand, yeah, there's going to be some things here and there. But at the end of the day, when you watch that position with him at the helm, how much different and more functional does it look? I think you're going to like that. And it's okay to embrace that part of it because that is a major key to success this season. And that is why a lot of people are high on him. It's not just, well, at some point, Nebraska's got to turn the corner and they've got to be a 7 or 8 win team. No, if you just pay attention, it's okay to go all in on Dylan Raiola. There's no problem with that. It doesn't mean that you're drinking the Kool-Aid and you're this delusional fan. That's where I think people are like, well, I don't want to be the delusional fan anymore.
I got this discussion yesterday about hype. Everybody is their own man and woman. Okay, you can make your own decision. If something is real, is it hype?
No.
Okay.
It's not hype. It's the reality. Real is a reality. That's not hype.
I get it.
That's not hype.
Get it. The media here locally and nationally, we have been at times far off.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, far off. And we have built the hype. But isn't there a difference this year is that it is a coach-led hype.
Yes.
And it has been consistent for a while now on their message and how they feel about this football team. Nobody down there is saying out loud, hey, this is a playoff team. They have used the word, this is a very, very good football team.
Right.
That has to learn how to win in games that matter to be great. But you can listen to the media and you can scoff because I think for the most part, local media compared to national media have still been pretty reserved. But take us out of the mix. This has been a coach conversation for a while.
Yes.
Coach hype compared to media hype. And then go a step further. And I know what I'm going to get. Have you not seen the previous coaches here and what they've said? Is your trust level not different with the current head coach compared to the previous head coaches? If you can answer that question, then you can believe what they're saying and go, if he sees something, then it's got to be different. But also, people are smart enough to use their eyes and their ears and make your own determination. And if you have seen Nebraska practice in the last month or even in the spring game, does it feel the same or does it feel different?
Feels
Does
different.
it feel like they're turning a corner?
Yes, 100%.
Okay.
And
with they got to keep charging the Tesla because they got a long way to go. But at least there are wheels on the Tesla and it hums.
Yeah.
Okay, and it drives. Okay, compared to where it was missing a wheel and you found it on the side of the road and it was jacked up and there was nobody inside of the car and it had the state patrol yellow tape around it.
It said honky lips on the side.
They do that to a Tesla.
I don't know, maybe. But okay, and I would also even go with this because you're right about the national media. This is not us driving this point home in what is a hollow point about Nebraska right now. From the national exposure, the national hype, and I know a lot of people have compared it to 2019 when there was national hype about that, and there was. But this is also what I find interesting about the national praise for Nebraska being one of those teams that could have a breakout year. Because national people do not want to trust Nebraska at all. They've been burned so many times doing that. And you'll see that in everyone's write-up. They're like, I've done this before, but this time I feel it's different. You think those people want to continue to get burned by the Big Red when it comes to that as well? It's one thing that when we're seeing this day in and day out, but they are also using their sources, talking to their connections. They're going to practices. They're hearing from people as well. They know what Dylan Ryler really meant. They've talked to Kirby Smart. They've talked to Georgia. They know what Georgia lost out of that. They know what Ohio State lost out of that as well. This is a prediction, a forecast for Nebraska football that, in my opinion, from the national standpoint, is a little bit more interesting because of the fact that there are a lot of people who don't want to believe that or don't feel like they can't trust Nebraska, yet they still are trusting them.
You say nationally?
Nationally. I know two people in particular that I've talked to specifically. Okay. One is a Vegas insider, and his name is Scott Spreitzer.
Okay.
He's always said, and anytime he doesn't usually get into the season predictions, but as far as the win totals, whether he's going to the over or under, he's usually very cautious on the under when that number has either been 8 or 7. And I remember him saying, it's just a trust factor with this team. I can't do it because I've done it before. And so he would always yield on the under until he saw it. I know he is hitting the over on Nebraska's win total this year. Hearing from one of the college football with not Athlon, college football news. Same thing is there's just something about trusting Nebraska that is always a slippery slope lately because you feel like a lot of stuff gets drummed up about them and they win the offseason, which we all know, but what they return, what they have at quarterback, it's hard to imagine that this is not a major step
That's
forward.
why I'm so excited about this year because there are no more excuses, okay? If you fail this year, you look in the mirror and that's your fault, all right? You have learned from your lessons last year. You have pieces to be successful. Now it's all on you. It's not about what has happened in the past or what's going to happen in the future. It's all about this year. That's why I'm excited about this year to watch this unfold because it's been very rare that you could go, well, no, Rule has done a really good job of turning it all on himself.
Mm-hmm.
Like if Nebraska is not successful this year, the only person to blame is the guy that looks in the mirror.
Yeah.
Okay. Nobody else.
Mm-hmm.
I'm kind of for that. I want to see how this all unfolds.
Yeah.
But this is the year where you change the word hype into reality because real programs don't have, well, it's just hype. Okay. Nobody says, well, Georgia's just hype.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Even kind of for a bit at a place like Iowa.
Yeah.
And I go, well, it's hype. No, it's been reality.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's their identity.
So that's the turning point of this year is we get to the point where you can retire the word hype and now it becomes reality. And it can be good reality, it can be great reality, it can be okay reality.
Mm-hmm. It's all better.
All right, Sam McEwen is coming up next. A little bit later, Brian Christopherson. More on this conversation because the word relevancy has come up a lot from national guys. Plus, we'll get Sam's feelings on what's going on in Boulder when it comes to the head coach and the media. And to be honest, I'm part of the media. They don't need us. They don't need the traditional media. We'll get into that with Sam when he joins us next on 1620 The Zone. Hey, you can get into this upcoming season. You know, you've heard us talking about FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Well, now we have something different for you. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5, only $5, and you get 3 weeks free of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. How about that deal? Then, with a YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out-of-market game. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel anytime.
If you're a Bears fan like me, you're looking at that out-of-market game, Titans, Bears first week, Steelers, Falcons, Cardinals, Bills, whatever it might be, whoever you root for. You don't have to worry about having to make some plans to go to this place or that place. You can have it right there. Just go to FanDuel.com, use the promo code ZONE, and download America's number one sportsbook. Again, that's FanDuel.com/zone. FanDuel is the number one sportsbook. 21 plus and present in Iowa. Full price of NFL Sunday ticket will be automatically charged seasonally after free trial. No refunds. Terms, restrictions, and embargoes apply. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-BETS-OFF.
All right, kickoff on Saturday. The season is here, 2:30 on Fox. Good Fox crew. Jason Benetti and Brock Heward will be for Nebraska UTEP. Got a good crew for not an A-level game, B-level game. Important game to kick off the 24 season. We welcome in Sam McEwen of the Omaha World Herald. Good morning, Sam.
Good morning. How you doing?
Good. Hey, I told your coworker Evan yesterday, and you're a little bit more involved as the sports editor. But kudos once again, putting out the tab for the college football preview is not easy. There's a lot that goes into it. There's a lot of people that are not just writers. So hat tip to all of you at the World Herald. It was another stellar edition when it was on my doorstep on Sunday.
Oh, thanks, man. I really appreciate that. I really appreciate it. Yeah, it's great work, and we've got a deputy sports editor, Kristen Donovan, who does a lot of that work, and so she did a great job. And yeah, our people are really good and dedicated, and we have a lot of fun doing it.
Hey, let's start here. Nick and I were talking about kind of the vibe of people as the season gets closer and what this season is going to entail. And I think you have a very confident head coach on. He knows what he has. He just needs to see it now. But I've heard in the last week, Sam, a lot of national people saying this will be the year that Nebraska returns to relevancy. In your opinion, for Nebraska to be relevant this year, outside of wins-losses, or even wins-losses, what does that mean?
That's a really good question. I think I think they've got to probably win the Colorado game because that one's going to be on national TV. And everybody's going to be paying attention to that one. I think Dylan Raiola has probably got to stay healthy, which probably he'll do, and he'll have a successful season. It doesn't have to be spectacular, but have a successful season, and wins and losses do matter in that conversation. That they're posting up some wins, and that they're going into the meat of their schedule, which is the back 5 games with a chance to make some noise. I'm not saying that they're 7-0. I think if they're 6-1, that they can still do that. And so I think those are probably the components. I mean, nobody's going to pretend that the first part of the schedule is super, super stringent. But if you win the games you're supposed to win, or you win most of the games that the Vegas lines say you're going to win, then I think you can have a pretty nice and relevant season.
Sam, the validation for the spring and subsequent summer and fall camp for Dylan Raiola being named number 1 quarterback, but what was asked yesterday of how they will handle Dylan Raiola, both playbook wise and mentally, and Matt Rule's immediate response of how they will, does that tell you everything you need to know about their confidence level? Or is that more of because I know the question was asked, would you treat anybody that way, any quarterback that way? And he said he wasn't sure, but is that more about the type of player that they know they have in Dylan Raiola?
I think so. That answer, that series of answers was interesting to me. I'm not sure what the tone was referring to. I try to pay attention to that part of it, and he could have said all those things and not had I'd rather lose the first game than the last game.
Right.
Part of the answer. I think he's trying to communicate something to his team about the way they need to go play, and we're not going to put shackles on the playbook anymore, kind of thing. Like we're going to go and just play football and do the things that we need to do. And I think the second part of that, so he was asked about whether he would feel that way about other quarterbacks. I think what he was trying to say in that moment is, well, it just doesn't make any difference what we would think with someone else, because the reality is we're going to go play with this guy. Mm-hmm. And I think he said it was a good thing and all the rest. There's something embedded within that, the tone of that quote that probably points to something he's trying to emphasize with his offensive coaches. We'll talk to Satterfield today, and something he's trying to emphasize with the guys around Raiola, which is, you guys are 22, 23, 24 years old. Do not let the fact that this guy's never started a football game for us or for any college team dictate how you're going to play the game. So I think that's part of where that's coming from, is that, Dylan, this is not a coronation for Dylan. This is not some sort of, we're going to give him a chance and put training wheels on him. He's the starting quarterback of what we believe is a good football team, and he's going to have to play and act like that. And we're going to coach him accordingly. So it isn't going to be, well, he threw 2 interceptions, but what can you expect? He's a true freshman.
Mm-hmm.
The team around him is too old to make excuses like that. Now, flip side of the coin is he's going to throw interceptions, because what do you expect? He's a true freshman. Right. I think Matt Rule's just trying to set a different expectation than that.
Absolutely. Sam McCune of the World Herald joining us. What if you and I got together? Let's say I came to your town. We went to the mill. We had a little coffee. It was December 1, and I told you, Sam, a guy that had 599 snaps at wide receiver and a guy that started 6 games, when they roll out the depth chart on August 26th of next year, are going to be third at their respective positions. Now, I'm talking about Alex Bullock and Malachi Coleman, respectively.
Yeah.
You would have said what, knowing the current state of the wide receiver room compared to what we know now?
I would have said I believed it. Yeah, I thought they needed to go out and get a lot better at that position really quickly. I think they needed to get a running back too, which they did, and he's made enough of a push that they're going to give him a chance on Saturday too. But I would have believed it. I think the receiver position is enormously important. I think you can trace the success, at least some of the success of Ohio State football, back to that, back to recruiting elite receivers. I think you can trace a lot of the success of Alabama back to that, now that we've seen what Mac Jones can't do in the NFL. And you can go back and say, yeah, well, having Devonta Smith and having these other guys is pretty important. Nebraska had to get better at that position. I think they did get better. I'm not putting them in the Alabama or Ohio State category by any means, but I think maybe they're top 10 in the Big Ten now, which is better than last, which is where they were, or 13th out of 14 ahead of Iowa. So, and Iowa went out and got all new guys too. So I think it'll be. I think you're going to see them benefit. Well, would you love for a third year Dylan Raiola to be the guy for making those throws? Sure, it wouldn't be bad, but this is what they have, and this is what they're going to roll with. Jamal Banks will get the most snaps. I still think Jalen Lloyd's going to get a lot of snaps. He's not a starter, but he's going to get a lot of snaps. I think Janiron Bonner is going to be a guy that's on the field to block for a decent chunk of the time. I think that's part of what he's going to do. And then you have Isaiah Nayor, and I think he's your big play threat. But they get Garcia Castaneda back and a bunch of other guys. So Bullock will probably be the number 6 or 7 guy on the team in terms of snaps.
All right, so, and you brought up running backs, and I know that was getting a lot of the conversation just because that's the only and not 3 but 4 guys, as you pointed out, and including Dante Dowdell, it's going to have a shot. If there's a guy that, as Matt Rule said, maybe over the next 2, 3, 4 weeks that one will emerge, do you still feel, I know at one point a lot of us felt good about Emmett Johnson. The Dante Dowdell push right now is interesting too. Is there someone that you do think will emerge? And do you think that it's maybe the one we're not talking about? Maybe it's not Emmett Johnson. Maybe it is Dante Dowdell. Maybe it's Gabe Ervin.
We'll probably know by game 4 or 5. I think there's a sense of what's the right word? A little impatience there to figure that out. I think there's a sense that the coach of that position needs to get that figured out, and needs to get a player in the program who can do the thing that Rule is talking about, which is take a 4-yard play and make it 12, take a 12-yard play and make it 80. And that's what he meant, I think, yesterday. I don't think he was necessarily saying you're going to take a 4-yard play and make it 80. It's hard to do that. Barry Sanders can do that. So I think I know what he means, is that if you get a guy to the second level, can he take it to the house? And if you get a guy to the first level, can he get to the second? And part of that's recruiting. And part of that is, and they tried to coach this. I mean, you watch the drills where they had, Ron Brown rolling giant balls at him at about the 5-yard mark and trying to get them to get used to making moves and making plays. Part of this is recruiting, and part of this is just coaching. So I think they're all pretty good players. Dowdell is got an extra gear when he gets in the open field. I think Emmett Johnson does too, and Ramir Johnson has that. I'll just say this: I've been watching Ramir Johnson for 5 years, and he's a straight line runner. So he's a one cut and go guy, even for his size, and he needs a hole if he's gonna. He doesn't have as much shimmy to him. He doesn't necessarily make a lot of guys miss. He's a downhill guy that runs his tail off. So. I'm sure they'll look at it. I think they'd love for Ramir Johnson to be the guy. Gabe Ervin might have the most elusiveness of the bunch, and he's the largest one. So we'll see what happens. I couldn't tell you at this point. I think they're not sure either, which is why they got to play 4 of them.
Hey, what? Let's go back to and I'm vibing with you, Sam, on that comment yesterday because I had to go back and listen to it because when he first said it, I wasn't thinking. I mean, I'm not surprised. They've had injuries, they've had poor evaluation development, and they haven't had a run of. I mean, we got spoiled around here to go Halou, Burkhead, Amir, and it's been very light since then. And I mean, these guys, there isn't a lot of separation. They don't have a home run hitter. But go back to E.J. Barthel, the running back coach. What's the relationship there? Because it seems like every other assistant on this staff we know really well and Rule is high on. He doesn't talk about his running back coach very often. Am I off on that?
Yeah, I mean, no, you're not off on that. I think there's, he's obviously worked with Rule and kind of learned from Rule's. I don't even know, I can't remember the guy's name. He was the offensive coordinator at Syracuse for a long time. But he kind of learned recruiting from Rule's offensive line coach or, one of Rule's mentors. And I think, again, I think Barthel is very likable. It's just a job where you got to go find the guy. And you've got to find a guy that can do the things you want him to do and can carry that load for 20 carries. I did think Emmett Johnson came along last year. I think Emmett may have the most complete package there. We'll see, but he inherited him. So the guys that he's recruited so far are Quentin Ives and then Mekhi Nelson. And Mekhi's probably a year away, and he's small. So when we saw him out on the field, he is a smaller guy. And if you're small, you better be a rock. You better be Amir Abdullah, who is also not real tall. So I don't know if Mekhi's probably got to put on some weight. And then the guy they got coming next year. And you do really have to see him through and see if Jamarian Parker can come and be the player that he is in high school. I mean, Parker's a real home run hitter. So maybe they got him there. But Quan Lacey, obviously they had him in the boat, and then he decided to go to Missouri, where he could play right away. But you don't want to lose recruits to Missouri. No offense to Missouri, they could go to the playoff this year. So I think there's all those components. I'm just always watching to see. I kind of felt the same way about the defensive backs, and there was no coach closer to Matt Rule than Evan Cooper. But I kind of felt the same way, and you see their depth chart, and that's not John. Not John Butler's work. John just got here. So when you look at the chart, you see guys on that list who are guys that Ramir Stewart is a Cooper recruit, but he's a Matt Rule recruit too. And then the other guy is a walk-on. I mean, Derek Branch. So, but and Rule said it yesterday that he's like, if you're a defensive back and you're not on special teams and you're on scholarship, you should ask yourself why. That's a lot of guys that they signed as scholarship defensive backs who aren't on the depth chart, and that's a little bit concerning. And so that was the other position. Of course, Evan Cooper. There's nobody closer to Rule than Cooper. So those are the two that I thought were worth wondering about. We'll see what the season brings for both.
Sam, a lot of talk about the defensive line for UTEP. Is that to you the big matchup? Obviously, there's just we want to see what this looks like in certain areas, especially with how Dylan Raiola in his first game as a college football quarterback. All that is going to be a big attraction. But as far as matchups within, is it how this offensive line holds up against maybe the strength of this UTEP team?
Yeah, I think that's a good call, Nick. I think teams like this, what they're gonna try to do a lot of is they're gonna try to be aggressive and throw the kitchen sink at Nebraska and try to get them behind the sticks. And let's see how many more cliches I can rattle off here. But the goal is to gum the game up early and to make aggressive plays, maybe get up, maybe go into halftime 7-6, do some things that get an offense off kilter, and Nebraska's offensive line has to be able to handle that. I think it should. The flip side of the coin is when you have a team that a defense that wants to do that to you, you've got to hit them and make big plays off of it. If they're going to play man coverage, you got to throw it over the top and be aggressive. So I'm sure UTEP will try some of those things, and those can be frustrating games to watch for fans sometimes, because it feels like boom bust, and it feels like, Nebraska, all they did today is get 4 plays of 63 yards, and I mean that's all they did. Well, that's kind of what those teams force you to do until you big play them out of that scheme. On the flip side, so UTEP's offense, Rule did a good job of explaining it. They're going to do what a lot of sort of quasi air raid teams do, which is if your corners are off, they're going to throw the quick smoke routes and try to block you up and get quick gains that way. If you roll your corners up and you're going to play tight and aggressive, they're going to go over the top and try to beat you deep. And that was sort of the way that Mike Leach always taught it. It was very effective against Nebraska when Bo Pelini was there. So that's kind of what they'll probably try to do. And they may run the quarterback a little bit as well. I mean, you do what you can to try to gain yards and to make plays. I think UTEP's offense will probably struggle in that game. And if it doesn't, then we could be in for a longer afternoon than we expect.
Ooh, that $1.65 million check can look pretty good for UTEP if that's the case.
Yeah, well.
I want to get you out on this, and I want you to wear the hat of a journalist. You know the parties that are involved out in Boulder and what transpired over the last couple of weeks. From your perspective as a newspaper guy that has sat in some press conferences with coaches that have become a little contentious, what is your thoughts on what has transpired out in Boulder between Sean Keeler, Deion Sanders, and just the coach and the media relationship in 2024?
Good question. So I think that, I've been in a few of those situations. I'd say the majority of this is on Deion and the way that he handles, resistance to his approach. I do think he's taking on the circus a little bit here, and it does take away some of the attention from his team, and that might not be accidental. That there might be a sense of, well, I'm going to take the heat right now so the team can get ready to play a game that nobody wants to play, and nobody wants to play North Dakota State. And he has said that he respects North Dakota State. And I think so there's that. And then there's the additional, the media is against us creating this sort of us-them narrative. The thing with CBS, the CBS reporter was not far more, but more offensive. Because I think I have a pretty good idea of what he was upset about CBS about, and that's certainly nothing that the CBS Denver reporter could affect. That was strange, and apparently that got resolved. Like Deion, you realize it's not they're not all talking to each other. So that apparently got resolved. I think the situation with the Denver Post columnist, obviously, I don't think he's done anything to warrant the way that Colorado's handling this. Colorado probably should not have put that in Sanders' contract, that he doesn't have to talk to these folks, but there are ways to work around it. And, if I'm a beat reporter and I don't work for the Denver Post and I'm there, this is one of those moments where the media says, okay, well, we're going to ask the hard questions anyway. We're not going to be afraid to challenge what's going on here. I would probably go so far as to say to him, is what's going on in this moment related to trying to take pressure off of your team? Are you trying in your own way, quite imperfectly, to generate, some drama over here so that your team can prepare in a way that's, gets them ready for, because nobody's going to be surprised by Colorado this time. Everybody knows what Shadur Sanders and the other guy can do. So nobody's gonna be taken by surprise. So now it's more about football.
Mm-hmm.
So I think you still have to ask hard questions. We did that when Bo was there. Certainly Bo, tried to strong arm reporters all the time. So, and I don't mean physically strong arm them, but leverage them rhetorically. And there were lots of moments. I think I've told the story about the Biff the blogger thing where, he tried to ban everybody from practice, and me, Dirk and I went out into the hallway and you don't want to do this. Like, what are you doing in this moment? And then eventually every reporter that covered the team was around him out there, and it was like him surrounded by 20 people, and he's going back and forth with everybody. And at the end of it, he's like, somebody asked him, and he goes, so are we back on for practice? And he goes, back on. And then he just walked away.
Yeah, well, that was, Sam, that was how Bo resolved things. You just had so he jumped me twice, and you just had to let him get it out, and he would vent, and it might go a while, and he might say some things to you that would make your skin, burn.
Yeah.
But once he got it out, then if you said, are we good? Yeah, we're good.
Yeah. And that's a difference between he and Deion. I don't think that's true with Deion at all. I don't think Deion's good with. I'm not sure Deion's good with his supporters. He is having, I think, a hard time dealing with both the adulation and the criticism. I don't think he's handled the positive stuff necessarily that well either. There's a lot of people at those press conferences that kind of want to just kiss the ring.
Yeah.
And he spars with them, hey, I want to ask you about this. Well, I don't know. He's just he's uncomfortable with 30 minutes of questioning. And if he's going to make it here, he's going to make it at Colorado, he's got to get way more comfortable with imperfections and question asking and all that. Nobody's better than Matt Rule. I mean, Deion Sanders could take a master class from Rule, and we don't always ask Matt Rule good questions, but he understands the gist of what we're going after, and he's able to turn that into a thoughtful answer. And everybody in the media here appreciates that about Rule for sure.
Yep. Sam, I appreciate the perspective, the insight, and the conversation, and we'll see you on Saturday. Thank you.
Take care.
Did we just have it has been a while. Biff the blogger.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I remember going back to, was it the 03 K-State game? Bill Snyder. Yeah. And I think it was Sean. There was a small media pool around him in the hall, and had asked him about that, and he got pretty upset, and he was ready to walk away from it, and was essentially, I don't know who urged him to go back. Might have been the head guy. I'm not sure, but there's been some incidents. Gary, this was the other thing that, as you, myself, and Connor were talking about this in the crossover yesterday. This is what probably gets to me the most about, and even the aftermath of what was said and what was done at Colorado when it came to banning Sean Keeler, is the questions and his responses after that, after he had time to reflect on it. And this is where we kind of all talked about, there's really no going back. When you talk about, there's a quote that he said where he's talking about, I think the question was, there was another reporter that said, if I ask a negative question, will you not answer them anymore? And his response immediately was, well, that's being negative right now. And he talks about, I might have to change that a little bit, so I'm not going to match your ignorance. But talking about anybody who's critical, or at least just wants to know more about what were you thinking in this situation, in a play or a decision that maybe didn't turn out well, to think of that as hate. That's what he was talking about. Is he said, I don't hate like that. I come with love and peace. Since what is criticism hate?
Yeah.
I think we all know what hate is. Criticism, and this is being part of the job. So to make this into this thing, that this very traumatic experience that Deion Sanders went through, when reporters are just being critical of this element or that element, that's where I have the biggest problem of making this into some real, just awful experience that Deion has had to endure since being the head coach at Colorado.
We will go find Biff the blogger. He's in his basement. I don't know if he has a job yet. It's been a while. It's been 12 years since we had that little description by the head football coach at Nebraska of the typical message board fan. We're back with more Mornings with Sharp and Handley at 1620 The Zone.
And this week's zone deal is to Capal Mexican Cuisine. Capal at 129th and Maple is Omaha's best kept secret with weekend brunch on both Saturdays and Sundays. Sunday fun day with all day happy hour on Sundays. In this deal, you'll receive two $25 vouchers, a $50 value for just $25. Get all the deets, 1620thezone.com.
Good spot. Good spot indeed. Jimmy mentioned earlier in the update, tonight the volleyball season kicks off. Nebraska is in Louisville to take on Kentucky. They have gone all in on Cook's Race for the Roses because they want to go to Louisville 3 different times because they go back in September and play Louisville. If you look at their media guide, subtly the background, you have to look really close, is Churchill Downs.
Oh.
So you know how like a lot of college baseball teams put Omaha up and they put like the skyline of Omaha?
Yep.
On the media guide for Nebraska volleyball, it's got subtly in the background Churchill Downs.
I love that.
They've gone even a step further. I noticed that the like gear, not the Adidas gear, but like backpacks and other stuff they've issued to the team. Everybody has a rose.
Nice.
Any Kentucky bourbon?
Probably too soon.
I love this, and it's a program that obviously this isn't wishful thinking. You see like the Toledo baseball team will have Road to Omaha in their locker room. You're like, all right, good luck with that. But I mean, this is.
They didn't specify what they're coming to Omaha for, though.
By the way, is this tonight? Would you guys consider this to be the equivalent of the like volleyball's version of Champions Classic? What we've seen in college basketball.
That's what I thought.
I think so.
You know, you're getting the jump. You're in between games that are going on. So you have a chance to have that spotlight for your own. It's Tuesday night. This just comes off of the heels of what was aired on Sunday night as well. This is great exposure. It just kind of dawned on me like this is the Champions Classic for volleyball.
I mean, Wisconsin's a juggernaut, and they're there as well. I like this, and everybody is like in it to promote the sport. That's what I appreciate especially about volleyball coaches. And I see this like in softball as well. Maybe just across the board in women's sports. Is that coaches are all in to promote the sport. Okay, they're not like, oh no, hey, we got big ratings. You should, what? I'm not like John said the other day, Coach Cook. He said the other day,
you can call him John.
That we should be playing in this. We're promoting the sport, so I think it's great for the sport, and we know that it's going to be a banger of a year in Omaha and Lincoln for volleyball. So that starts tonight with Gerster.
Yeah, Gerster.
He responded to a tweet yesterday. He said, Gerster, JB. John Baylor begins his 31st season as the voice of Nebraska volleyball.
Does not age.
Yeah. Hey, we get the replay system, which will be faster tonight too.
Hey, you know what? You're absolutely right. We were together recently, and we always tell old stories. And I said, hey, remember when Chris Atterbury, he was in the doing St. Paul Saints, and he was doing the Salt Dogs, and he came over to your house, and we all sat in the back on the porch. He goes, yeah, that was a long time ago. But 31 years. I remember when JB first started doing Nebraska volleyball, and it was presented to Broadcast House to do volleyball on the radio. He had such trouble getting phone lines because nobody was doing volleyball.
Right.
Now, I mean, that was a rarity for college volleyball to be on the radio back in 95. Now, if your team is not on the radio, it's a rarity. I mean, look at we carry Creighton. They're over on 1180.
Yep.
I mean, they should be on the radio.
Absolutely.
But yeah, 31 years tonight will be the start of the 31st year for John Baylor.
That's great.
Scratching your backs on the bricks. Kaboom! More babies are being born in Nebraska.
Call the grandchildren.
It's a good one.
Texas's passing is so poor.
They're waking babies in the power line district.
It's like a Yugo on the Autobahn.
Another good one.
Yes.
One of my favorites.
If you don't have dreams, you have nightmares.
Yes.
And the best one.
John Cook, bring it home. We're going to set 5. I can't do it. I can't.
Only one man can do it.
I can only do it when you're around him and you start talking like him.
How's it going, guys?
Guess we could have got him back on. Have dual
JB.
JBs.
Gerster.
Gerster, there's a grocery store in Lincoln. Let's go to lunch. And we did. All right, 8:11. We got more up coming on UTEP week. Plus a couple of things about college football. that we will dive into when we come back. Brian Christopherson still to join us in 1620 The Zone.
Halftime brought to you by Omaha Whiskey Fest 2024, the largest celebration of whiskey in the region. And don't forget, tomorrow we got a Whiskey Wednesday coming your way, a chance to win passes to the Omaha Whiskey Fest. It'll be happening on September 28th in downtown Omaha. Did I hear we might have a special broadcast out there too?
I think that's finalized.
I thought it was too.
Big Red Overreaction after the Purdue game will be live from the Whiskey Fest at Hilton Omaha.
Join Gary with a smoked old fashioned. See you being a smoked old fashioned guy.
Is that what you're calling John these days?
Exactly.
You know what?
I don't know how John might love it or hate it.
I think I've been called worse things. So if you're John Schreiner doing that one, and someone refers to you as a smoked old fashioned, I think that's a compliment.
John might be finding out that news for the first time right now.
Hey, John, you're going to Whiskey Fest. Have fun.
I mean, I'm pretty sure he's on the email, but I don't.
But
email.
Big Red Reaction will be live from Whiskey Fest
Nice.
on the 28th after the Purdue game, which is an 11 a.m. Kickoff. All right, there was the discussion about Dion and media, and if you are a blowhard and you are clicks, the traditional media you probably don't need.
Right.
I mean, you can create your own media. That's kind of how it is.
Yeah.
Sorry to say that, but
it's called social media.
They don't need us. They don't need traditional media. Colorado football doesn't need the Denver Post. Okay, they've created stuff on their own. But in terms of coaches and power and media and dictating things and how agents are more involved and coaches have a lot more power, and we always appreciate the coaches that are kind with their time and you know they're not power hungry. They realize they can promote themselves through us. Others are like, no, we have other means. Have you not seen our TikTok? Well, yesterday was another case of this in a different light. So Dabo Sweeney has said no to phone calls on his coach's show. Tyler from Spartanburg, the last straw for Dabo. He did him in by his phone call to Dabo Sweeney. So Dabo Sweeney, who some might say is the second best coach currently in college football. We'll see. He's going up against Kirby Smart this weekend. But Dabo doesn't believe in phone calls to his radio show or the portal.
Yep.
But he believes in a lot of other things.
Yes, he does.
If you know where I'm going.
Yes, he does.
So, have you guys ever met anybody that is called into a coach's show and actually gotten on air?
Yeah. Do you remember the one time that there was a guy from Crete that went after Darren Erstad and essentially asked him about, I think, bunting situations. And he, at one point, now I'm paraphrasing, but at one point, this guy had said, anybody who knows baseball would know to do this, essentially going up against Darren. And Darren just ran an analytics circus around him. Circle. It was a circus, but it ran an analytics circle around the guy where I don't know if he hung up or was just
blown away.
I have no response to that. That guy came out to a remote that we were doing one time, and I met him. And I was able to, he told me who he was. I was able to recognize the voice because that interaction was just seared in my brain of like, I'm a big Darren Erstad fan. And when I met him and he just wanted to talk baseball with me, like, that's that guy. So I don't know anybody like personally, but I've met him.
Is he the guy that triggered Bo to call Erstad's show in support? Because
yes,
Bo,
yes,
okay,
yes,
so
yes, it was.
I do remember hearing about this.
So I used to host these shows. So I did the Bill Burns show. I was briefly on the Steve Peterson show.
What a week that was.
But I used to host the coaches shows. Like my first year hosting the coaches shows was T.O.'s last year.
Okay.
Unbelievable experience. The man would come into the studio and he would take calls.
Yeah.
He'd be very conversational. He would diagram plays.
Oh, I remember you
while
saying
he was
that,
sitting there. And
that's just the way his mind works.
And every Wednesday, and remember back then, and it still is to this day, the head coach wasn't on every show. He would let his assistants come in. So, T.O. or the head coach for Nebraska usually is on, 4 or 5 shows. And I was always hoping that he would leave the piece of paper because he would design plays while he was on air. And I was like, oh, please leave that. Please leave that. But he would take it with him. And so I asked him after he had retired, did you ever? And he goes, yeah. He goes, I was fine tuning some of the stuff we were running. that came into my mind during practice.
And it's right there.
I was like,
in your
oh
line
my
of
God.
sight there. That's awesome.
I also, I did a show when Bo was an assistant here. I had no idea how to handle it. I had to ask Coach Solich, hey, is this guy going to just kill me? I mean, he's going to bite my head off. And Frank goes, no, actually, Bo's a really nice guy. He'll be great. I was so afraid. So what I'm getting at is, up until the new regime came in, and then all of a sudden, there were no more phone calls on the show.
Yeah.
Bill Byrne had the best show going because Bill would take as many calls as possible, and he didn't want anything screened. He wanted the call to come in, and John Bishop was the phone screener. He goes, I want the call to come in. I just want the name. I want where they're from, and then a little bit of what they're going to talk about. And we're going to talk to the callers.
Okay.
He goes, I don't want any. He goes, everybody's fair game. He goes, don't screen anybody. I don't want to get that phone call.
It's a dangerous game, but I respect it.
So Byrne was great with that. T.O. and Frank were the same way. They didn't want anybody screened. Okay, just let them go.
Yeah.
Frank didn't like talking to callers. He wanted more talk, the host.
Yeah.
T.O., everybody wanted to talk to T.O. So then when the new regime came in, the show completely changed. Remember, Peterson would get his own guests, and they would talk about bowling and other sports in his show. And if you wanted to get in contact with the AD then, it actually had to be a letter. You had to handwrite a friggin' letter.
Oh, Bill Snyder.
And that's what they answered on air. Okay? And then Callahan used screen calls, and they were like, we don't want calls. So since then, the shows have been open and people call in, but around here, we don't get those like memorable calls. Right. Like we don't have a Tyler in Spartanburg. But when I was listening to the discussion about Clemson doing this with their radio show, and maybe you don't need calls if you have a really good host that has a good conversation and is comfortable enough to bring up some stuff that might be uncomfortable.
Yeah, that could be on callers' minds.
But the host and the coach have a good relationship, so they understand.
Right.
Maybe you don't need callers to a caller show. But I forgot his name. There was the one phone call that I'll always remember to a coach's show. Remember, there was a guy from Beatrice that called Bo when Bo was the head coach. And the guy called up and he questioned whether the Nebraska football program was going in the right direction. And I was listening live and I thought, oh my God, this is not going to be good. This is not going to be good at all because it was Greg hosting.
Yeah.
And it got really, really uncomfortable. And you could almost through the radio hear Bo just start to seethe. And
you hear the steam coming out.
And I'm pretty sure the guy was from Beatrice.
Yep.
And Bo said, if that isn't the right direction, then you have a conversation with Sean Eichhorst and they're free to go in another direction.
Yeah.
And then the pause. And
tension in the
I've
air
been
now.
in that room before, and it's like, what do you do next?
Right. How do you transition away from that? How do you get it back on somewhat of a positive place for the coach?
But people were searching out that guy in Beatrice because they wanted to talk to him.
Did Bo search him out?
No. Bo was more message board search out guy. He wasn't like talk show guy.
Fair.
But people were like going to Beatrice like, who is that guy? You remember that guy? Did you know that guy? Did you recognize the voice?
Yeah.
Like media wanted to interview the guy because he ticked off Bo.
Wow.
He got to Bo. Bo gave them a quote in there. Now all of a sudden it's going back to the AD of like, oh, hey, tension.
Because it was after they had gotten blown out at Wisconsin.
Yeah.
That was and then Bo just happened to be the coach on that night, and the guy from Beatrice called in.
Wait, was that the first Big Ten game Wisconsin won, or was that the Melvin Gordon game?
That was a 59-24.
Okay, yeah, and
I wasn't close.
So that was the year. Wasn't that the same year then that he essentially challenged to get fired after they beat Iowa?
Yeah.
Or I'm sorry, they lost to Iowa. They beat Iowa, then he got fired.
So that was it was right in the middle of he had told members of his staff, if you have an agent, they better start looking for you because we're going to lose our jobs. This was about the middle of November.
Yeah.
And we know what happened a couple weeks later because they played Minnesota right after that and then Iowa, and they retained Bo in 14. But that night, that guy called into the show and wow, it went, oh my.
There are so many. So this was when I was commuting from Columbus and Omaha. And so I was listening to a Doc Sadler call-in show once, which the way that they have now been described to me, the behind the scenes of Doc showing up with a bag of Doritos and a Mountain Dew, usually the feet are up on the desk during commercial breaks, or sometimes he just put his hand over the mic because he'd have like the caffeine burp, like, but I just
Actually
remember
sounds delicious.
somebody
Not the burp.
asking, and again, old school caller asking about, and they were struggling, asking about the team in general, but then suggested, why don't you do this? And anybody that follows these things and does what we do, you're not even there and you feel very awkward and uncomfortable because you can just imagine, especially in your role, like you've done these shows. We didn't really have a call-in show, but I used to do a couple of coaches shows before too. And his response though was the most Doc Sadler. Like there are just certain coaches that you could ask them and essentially challenge their intelligence in said sport, however you want to, and they're still going to give you, and in the Doc fashion of, well, first of all, thanks for being such a loyal fan. Without our fans, we don't know what we do, and those are interesting observations, and I definitely will listen to those for sure. But then immediately pivots away from something. But the way he handled that, I was. Whether he won another game at Nebraska or not, I was always going to be a fan of Doc Sadler for that moment where I'm like, because there's that competitor. We've all been in sports to some degree. There's that competitor, and you've like, how in the hell would you even have the stones to ask that question to a guy who clearly knows what he's doing? And yet he answered it so politically correct that it was awesome. It was vintage Doc. But you're right. That's the Bo part of it. Now, I always remember these on press conferences on those, I guess sometimes there are Tuesdays when it was the Big 12 days. But if there was a loss or maybe even a suspect performance, you always knew how the presser was going to go based on his response to the first question. And if he gave you that sort of awkward laugh early on, you're like, all right, we're going to have a good day. But if there was the quick question, or the quick, question, quick answer, you were there, you saw, you're like, oh, it's Bo's not feeling it today.
Hey, the worst coach that, in my opinion, has ever been on one of those coaches' shows in this state, Jimmy Williams. Not, and he passed away when I was gone. The late Jimmy Williams. That also on a coach's show, the current Nebraska basketball coach got himself a new job at Rutgers and appointed Jimmy Williams as the new basketball coach at Nebraska, which elicited into our call screener a phone call from Bill Byrne to have Danny Nee call him when he was off the air.
Can you have him call me?
By the way, rest in peace to a real good guy, and Jimmy Williams, who, man, he was amigos 2 a.m, hooking up athletes at Nebraska. Everybody needed a Jimmy Williams.
I brought it up last week, and
I
wanted you to be there to be able to talk about Jimmy Williams because your relationship.
But the
with him.
other Jimmy Williams, remember, and the legendary guys that played in Nebraska, the family in Frank's last year.
Mm-hmm.
So Jimmy is on the staff. He's a linebacker coach.
Oh yeah.
So he's back at his alma mater.
Mm-hmm.
It's his week to do the show. He didn't talk. He didn't. That's a 60-minute show.
Okay, I remember you telling me there was someone who just didn't say anything
because he doesn't.
I've done coaches shows so much.
What do you do?
He very, very nice guy.
Yeah.
He didn't come and go, I don't really want to be here.
Yeah.
He just sat down. He was he was dressed up.
Yeah.
He just came in, sat down, and he didn't say anything. Like, I had questions, and they would be like 2 or 3 4-word responses.
Yeah.
Wow. And I was like, oh my. We would go on at 6, so like 6.
Mm-hmm.
I remember taking a break like at 6:12. I go, Coach, I'll get you some water. I went out and I was like, I don't know if we're gonna be able to do this.
Yeah.
Please, just somebody call.
Yeah.
To have your dad call in something.
Right.
Yeah.
Coworkers. Yeah. Just make up a name.
But with these coaches shows, and then some of course are better than others, and some are entertaining. Like Saban really leaned into his.
Yeah.
Vols calls. If you ever listen to that, I remember listening to Bowden's shows.
Oh, I can imagine. I've never heard those. I can imagine those are probably the most personal
but
things.
Bowden always wanted the people to mention where they were from, and then he'd have a story about recruiting a kid from that town, and it was
Sure.
they
Yeah.
would never get to the question, but Bobby would just tell stories, and I'm like, this is great.
Yeah.
But Saban's show turned into a really good one. Some of these shows that are out at bars
Mm-hmm.
can get a little sideways. Remember when Miles was here, they started to move. Didn't they go to Wings and Ring?
Yeah,
Rings
they went
and
to the
Ring?
Buffalo Wings and
Yeah.
Rings, and then
And that was kind of fun. Like that was in Miles' element.
They used to go to Hopcat a lot too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now they're all back in the studio.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think they're good listens. But if you have a good host that'll ask good questions, you probably don't need callers.
Right.
But I wonder around here, I've wondered this for a while. We used to have the Mike Kemp and then Dean Blaze hockey show at DJ's in Exarban Village.
Yep.
And you know that loyal fan base, they were there every Monday night.
Yep.
I hosted it one time. But then that went away after Dean left. And I don't know if it was because Dean sold the show on his own. But a lot of people have asked, how come Omaha's hockey coach doesn't have a show? Here's my bigger one. Because, you go around the country to colleges, and it seems like everybody has a coach's show. How come Greg McDermott has never had a weekly coach's show?
I've always wondered that too.
We've got a couple of ancillary Creighton programming.
Yeah, like the Creighton Athletics Hour.
But
he's a great listen.
I don't think Mac has ever had a Creighton men's basketball coaches show. And it doesn't have to be Mac. He's got a plethora of assistants.
They're good too.
That all, they appear on different programs. But I don't think, has Creighton men's basketball ever had a call-in show in Omaha?
Okay, so as you were saying that, I thought, and I might be way off on this, and this would have been way early, gosh, maybe back when
Willis Reed?
Man. I thought
Benoit Benjamin selling the show.
I thought T. Scott Marr and
did they?
Dana maybe did one at one point.
And
now if it goes before Tony Baroni or anything, I wouldn't have remembered that. But I thought for some reason I don't remember it being very long lived. But I might again, maybe it was just I heard T. Scott doing a weekly thing with Dana on one of the stations, but I thought they had something.
That would have been before my time here.
Mm-hmm.
But and maybe Mac hasn't really pursued it. I'm telling you, it would be a moneymaker. I'm just surprised that we've never had like a Greg McDermott Monday night coaches show at X location, because it would be packed. You would sell it out. It would be really good content.
I know a place that would probably make a lot of sense.
Yeah,
Bonefish?
Something either out west close to home or downtown close to the office.
You could rotate the two.
Oh, that's
you
right.
see what I'm talking about?
I smell what you're cooking.
M. Bigley in the stream says he thought Java did one a long time. That might be the one I'm thinking of. It might have been Gary Java a long time ago that did. I think maybe something with Altman. I don't know if it was consistent, like if it was a weekly thing or if it was one of those, once a month type of things. But I did think there was at least at one point a Dana Altman show.
One show I do need to listen to because somebody just emailed me and said you have to listen to Sam Pittman's Coach's Call.
I bet that's amazing. I love me some Sam.
I bet that is good. I bet that's really good. Just
now,
did they mean it sarcastically or no? Genuinely, you need to listen to Sam's show. That's what I want.
Now, does Dion have a coach's show on radio? He does on TV with a reporter from CBS Denver who takes a lot. No, this is different. So the person that hosts his TV show, she's the kind of media person that Dion wants. Like her family takes pictures with Dion's family, all that kind of stuff. He does have a TV show. It's actually not bad because he breaks down film and stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, I would watch
you
that.
get the football Dion.
Yeah.
I don't know if he has a radio coach's show like at a local restaurant in
Can
Boulder.
you imagine if he did
Local
and if he welcomed calls? I mean, come on. That would be amazing. If Deion Sanders actually did have one. Real quickly about the Sam Pittman one. You guys have listened to, I mean, even Arkansas baseball has a post-game call-in show. And from what I understand, I can only imagine what the Sam Pittman Arkansas radio hour, whatever they call it, would be amazing.
Hog calls.
Hog calls.
Hog calls. Yeah. It'd just be
Dion does a Buffs
that would
TV
rival
show.
a Feinbaum thing.
Couple of things
That's
here.
kind of radio.
Yes, one of the
With Mark Johnson.
the legendary callers in the state of Nebraska to coaches shows is Skunk Man.
Skunk Man.
Yeah,
Even I've heard of this.
good caller. And then also, why there is no
There's always a Doc. Doc always calls.
Why there is no coaches call-in shows? This is before my time. Apparently, a former talk show host in Omaha who has been gone for a long time, who was on Big 590.
Oh, I think I know who you're talking about.
So did he host with the Creighton basketball coaches? Did Peralt host a show?
I bet he probably, maybe that's what I'm thinking of then. But see what M. Bigley brings up. I do recall Gary Java coach's show. I don't know if it was always just Creighton, but yeah, I think Peralt probably did do it. And then he hosted the Blue Jay Cafe.
That sounds nice.
Oh, it's a message.
Breakfast.
It's a message board. Oh. Yeah. I guess that probably would be. When he did it,
I just always wondered, like that would Mac show would sell out with advertisers.
Yeah. I always wondered
there
that
would
when
be
we moved
people
here.
lining up where you could host it,
Especially now.
and he doesn't have to do it every. I'm trying to think. There's every Monday.
Yeah,
You could do once a month, like you said, assistants the
Yeah.
other. Or
Yeah, that it almost makes too much sense. I don't know why that wouldn't be a thing. Because a lot of college basketball coaches, especially of the caliber of Mac, do a coach's show.
They're even in the Summit League. I bet there's six coaches that have a radio call-in show.
Yeah.
Always enjoyed my free meal.
Did DH ever do one?
No, they would do like a preview show.
Okay.
But they haven't done that since he left. Crutch approached me about putting together a coach's show.
Yeah.
But most of those coaches' shows are actually put together by the coach who will sell the advertising and then make extra money on top of that. Or, like most of the contracts at big schools, you have built-in TV show, radio show.
Mm-hmm. Yes, yeah, right.
Yeah.
Mac could
And
make a
it's
killer.
usually part of the deal. And you get the appearance fee.
Some places you'll take calls, other places you won't take calls, and now they won't take calls at Clemson. And a badge of honor for Tyler from Spartanburg.
He
killed,
broke Dabo.
He's killed the call-ins. Never forget, Steve Peterson, in a discussion before he started his radio show, said, I would prefer if people just wrote in letters, and I'll just read letters.
Letters with Steve?
I prefer the teletype.
I can imagine your reaction.
And then it became, and this was even like with iCourse.
I've got any letters.
Hey, we'll bring the content to you.
Oh yeah.
Like you guys haven't talked to the director of bowling ops before, but they're going to be calling in at 6:15.
Yep.
Do you think we could go from 6:15 to 6:30 with them?
I know for a fact.
Yeah. Do you think I could walk around with scissors stuck in my eye?
I know for a fact.
Well, we could get it sponsored,
when
Gary.
iCourse was there, the 24 hours leading up to his appearance was you were presented with what he wants to talk about. Then you needed to, in turn, submit your questions that you're going to talk about those topics that he already submitted, and he had to approve those.
You had to as a host?
I didn't. Personally, I didn't. But yes, the host
had to.
The host will get the talking points 24 hours at least, at the bare minimum, 24 hours, maybe sometimes a couple days before.
State-run media?
And then you had to submit what your questions were going to be on said topics, and then get the final okay before he would even set foot in.
They told Wayne Campbell to do that with Noah Vanderhoff, and that didn't work out either.
Yeah, essentially that's what it was. You talk about riveting radio. There it is. That is just riveting from A to Z, my man.
All right. BC coming up here in a little bit. It's Mornings with Sharp and Handley at 1620 The Zone.
1620 The Zone. We continue to celebrate the first Nebraska game of the year with the annual Red Out Week. You'll get the most comprehensive Husker coverage right here in the mornings, the Connor Happer Show, and on Sports and Like Conduct. And join us this Thursday, our Red Out Week roundtable lunch. It's taking place again Thursday at Oscars at Lakeside Plaza. Red Out Week is brought to you by Union Bank and Trust. Get all the details at 1620thezone.com.
We've been sharing stories of coaches' shows off the air.
Got
Now
PTSD over here.
there are productive call-ins of coaches' shows, mostly with athletic directors. Bill Moose, who did not screen calls.
No,
we found out about the poor temperature of the popcorn.
Yep,
that was a famous call.
That was right out of the gate too. That was, I think, his very first one. He was inundated with the runza and the popcorn temperature. Yep.
He fixed it though.
I don't know. That's a good question.
Might have to get both.
But a
on
lot
Saturday.
of those AD
It's been a while.
shows, somebody I remember called into Trev, and they were very disappointed in the staffing in the 300 level of Pinnacle Bank Arena with the concession stands.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like a day later, Trev came out with "Hey, we figured out, we got a little staffing issue, and we're gonna rectify that." Though the AD shows are pretty good because it's kind of like a complaint session.
Yeah, it's the complaint box, is what it is.
So one of the best calls ever on the Bill Burns show. Guy called in, and this is late 90s. And again, Bill loved this show. Like he did it every Tuesday. He came in every Tuesday, and I loved it because everybody got fed. Like Bill would, there was a Da Vinci's across the street from Broadcast House. You'd just stop there, he'd grab some soda and a bunch of pizzas. He'd come in and sit there. It wasn't like,
the man of the people.
It was like Danny Nee. Nee would bring in beer for everybody. And
that's amazing.
Danny, unfortunately, would open it on the air where everybody could tell. And that's beside the point.
Man, you did the fun show.
Danny's show was fun.
Yeah.
So this guy calls into Bill's show and he goes, "Hey, Bill," he goes, "I've been a Nebraska football season ticket holder for umpteen years. Here are my seats. I've had these, my family, they were my family, and now I got them. And, hey, GBR.
Mm-hmm.
He goes, "But Bill, I got a problem." And, Byrne was like, okay. And the thing I appreciate about Bill is Bill took notes.
Yeah.
So if, people had things they wanted to look into or whatever, he'd take notes. And then he'd always say, "Hey, I'll get back to you.
Mm-hmm.
Contact my office. I'll get back to you."
Yeah.
And this guy goes, "But I'm thinking about getting rid of my seats."
Oh, then that's going to get someone's attention.
And Bill was like, "Whoa, you're very excited. It's a good year." And he goes, "Bill, I went to the game last week," and he goes, "Guy in front of me has a bass boat seat that he's sitting in." And Bill was like, "What?" And the guy, a bass boat seat. And Bill said, "Are you sure it's not one of the seats that the scouts sell?"
Yeah.
And he goes, "No." He goes, "I know what that is." He goes, "This guy had a bass boat seat that he was sitting in right in front of me." And
how dare you question my ability to differentiate between a bass boat seat and a chair back?
So the guy says, "Can you look into it?" Hangs up. Pleasantries are exchanged.
Mm-hmm.
Bill, during the break, actually called who was in charge of facilities.
Yeah.
And it might have been Big E or somebody. Back at the time, Johnny, Johnny or what, some of them. And he goes, "Would there be any chance that a fan could bring in their own seat and it might also double out on Lake McConaughey?"
I'm assuming the answer to that question was no chance. How great would it have been if it was like propelled? The bass boat seats could lift up. He had a special tubing device. It's like an umbrella.
But listen
base.
to the guy tell the story. I'm like, there's no way you could walk into the stadium with that.
It's a chair back.
Yeah.
And he thought it was a bass.
What was it? It might have been T.O. Where also on the coaches show, in the AD show, the scam got uncovered at Memorial Stadium, where there was a ticket taker was taking cash and just letting you into the stadium.
Oh,
and
okay.
some guy called in and he goes, "Hey," he goes, I want you to know something. I was I was going to the game the other day and I had my ticket out, and back then they didn't have the scanners. So this is probably T.O.-ish, or maybe even Peterson. And
I think this was late
he goes-
90s, if I remember correctly.
He goes, there's a guy in front of me that didn't have a ticket, and he goes, I saw him give money to the ticket taker and just walk into the stadium.
Yeah.
And that got uncovered on the AD show.
Oh, it
And-
did? See, I didn't know it happened on the AD show.
So the next home game,
they
got the information on where the guy was going into the stadium.
Yeah.
And the next home game, they ran like a scam, or not a scam, but
a sting.
A sting.
Yeah.
And they caught this guy, and he was taking cash for just letting people into the stadium. Like, you would come up the stairs, and it was well known, so people had their money out.
Yeah.
And instead of him taking the ticket and ripping it, he would take the money, and you would once you were in the stadium, you were on your own to go find a seat. But for like $20, he was taking cash for people to come into the stadium.
I believe that's called embezzlement too. That was, I think that might have been Peterson. It doesn't seem like it was that long ago. I mean, it definitely spanned a couple of decades, but it wouldn't shock me if that was like late 90s, early 2000s, because I remember hearing about that. I didn't know it was foiled on the AD show, though.
Yeah,
apparently that guy wasn't listening that day.
Guys, like, I just want to bring it to your attention.
When did I start taking cash at the turnstiles? I don't know.
You may have a scam going on.
Yeah. Do I need exact change?
But there was so one of the new things. This is the last year for
1998 is when we're hearing about.
Okay, is when that might wait a minute. I would have been doing the show.
It said $20 to go, get in the gate. Upper lateral mezzanine. This was 1998.
That's a hell of a deal, even then.
Yeah. It makes sense too. Just give me a 20. You can't go like $35 or 15. You need
just a 20,
an actual 20. Boom. You get enough people in. That's gonna be a good little weekend for that guy.
Mm-hmm. Especially in those days.
There's
Buys a lot of
technically
gas in
no
your car.
standing room only anymore in Memorial Stadium, is there?
No.
Not in a long time.
I mean, by the way, the game's not sold out this weekend.
It will be on Thursday. Maybe Friday.
Like, if you just snuck into Memorial Stadium, nowadays I would go like where the upper corner where the visiting tickets are.
Yeah.
I would go up there and you might be able to find a seat up there.
Oh, yeah. Easy.
But they don't, I probably should know this. They don't allow, like, the knothole section doesn't exist anymore underneath the north and south stadium.
That always used to get me on TV. They would watch it there.
I don't think it does. No.
Okay.
No.
Yeah, I don't think so.
They've rooted out any of the dirty players in this game.
So last night, ironically, talking about this AD show, so Dana was on. This is the last year for paper tickets.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're a season ticket holder, you get both, but there is the convenience of having it on your phone.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Plus, it's easier to transfer.
Mm-hmm. Can't you, if there's a game like you want to commemorate it, can't you get it through the athletic department that they will send you, or at least they would, I think. And I know other schools have done that. That if it's something that you want to commemorate, that they will hook you up with that.
College World Series has started that because College World Series has gone all mobile tickets.
Right.
But you can get like a commemorative paper ticket.
Yeah.
Look at Super Bowl tickets.
But this is But look at
like that Friday night game against Illinois for the 4 and 7. I mean, I could see some people wanting.
I mean, this is going to be a rough transition
year.
That. You can't use cash in the stadium.
Mm-hmm.
This would be the last year of having like a physical ticket. So what are people going to do with their scrapbook?
Oh,
and I'm not joking. That's like a big deal.
You are. You're
people
serious.
like the
right.
physical ticket.
Yes.
I like them.
Doug emailed us last week and was upset about that. He wants the paper ticket.
It's just you don't worry about losing it. You got it on your phone.
I know. I love having it on the phone, but if you are someone that is into memorabilia, and if there's a significant game, like I said, I think that Friday night game against Illinois, 400th sellout, just having a Friday night game at Memorial Stadium is something that maybe people want to commemorate, where they have the ticket stub to that, adding to their collection or to their man cave or whatever they do. I can understand that, but I think, and I don't want to put a service that doesn't actually exist on the athletic department's shoulders, but I think they do accommodate you. I think. Don't quote. You might want to call.
If not,
ahead.
it's Handley at 1620thezone.com.
Otherwise, I'll design one for you for this
I got
year.
You. It's Nick at 1620thezone.com.
Yeah, there you go.
Are you happy?
Yeah.
Better.
Brian writes in, first game UCLA 83 got in that way. We had 4 people in one ticket.
Oh, shoot. So this was going all the way back to 8.
Guy I went with handed the ticket taker it and 3 pieces of paper, and he tore the stack like it was tickets. We sat in the bleachers in the end zone.
Slick.
So I assumed when we had one of the gentlemen in the stream say it was 98, I'm assuming it wasn't just that year. That's when they just got caught. So if he's saying 83, so if that spanned for 15 years, it's a good chunk of change.
I remember quickly this ticket taker.
He probably had to pay it back.
This ticket taker had made some pretty good money.
Yeah,
I'd say.
Unfortunately, restitution probably took that money away. But hopefully he spent it wisely while he had it.
I like to think it was an offshore account and he's living peacefully on a beach.
I mean, it's not Connor Steins would have been very impressed with that.
Yes.
Vulnerabilities in your security.
Before we're done, speaking of tickets, Ticketmaster has gone way too far.
Oh, I already agree.
Way too far. I will tweet out when I tried to buy tickets to the Purdue Creighton exhibition at the end of October.
Yeah.
It's great. Upper Bowl, only the 200s are available. It's like $13 per ticket. We know that it goes to relief.
Mm-hmm.
When the combined price face value for your tickets is less than the ticket fees, we're going to have some speaks. If you want 2 tickets to that game, $26 on the face. But when you check out, that's why Tickets for Less is so awesome.
They are
$28.50 are the fees on those 2 tickets. So your 2 tickets all of a sudden cost nearly $55. Thank you, Ticketmaster.
Yep. Same thing happened when we went to the 30 Seconds to Mars concert. The ticket itself on its face was not bad at all, but the fees, I think it almost made the price double.
Yeah. We'll have to get into that coming up in the last hour. Quick break, come back with more. BC is around the corner on 1620 The Zone. So people are already bringing this back to an Oasis discussion that when those tickets go on sale this Saturday, that they are trying to figure out how quickly the Ticketmaster website goes down.
Oh, yeah, it will. So Oasis essentially is going to have the same effect as Taylor Swift. Wow, I really misjudged Oasis's popularity.
Wait, the Gallaghers are going to start dating
Hey,
the Chiefs?
save what he just said. He put Oasis and Taylor Swift popularity in the same sentence.
This is the last time that
Didn't think that was going to happen after the 6 o'clock hour.
Mm-hmm.
All because you heard Bruno Mars on the way to work this morning.
I'm not saying they're that in my book. Oasis to me is just beyond a one-hit wonder.
You're saying they're a two-hit wonder.
Yeah. Champagne Supernova and Wonderwall. Seriously, for anybody out there who's even claiming that they like Oasis, give me more than, okay, there was a third song you guys mentioned too.
I said
remember.
Lila, but that's just me.
Okay. Give me more than 3 songs. Not you, because you brought them up. I'm telling you, people, I think they're pretending they like Oasis more than they
Forgot
do.
Don't Look Back in Anger. That was a big one too of people.
What was the one of so sorry? I can't remember.
I think that's it.
Okay, so I do know
I should
that
just
one.
let you keep singing.
3 songs, go more than that. Bet you can't.
I mean, I don't even remember what I had for dinner last night, so.
Come on, Oasis.
Wait,
Really?
did I have dinner?
Oasis? Keep staring at me like I'm crazy, like I have lobsters crawling on my ears. But
just not gonna
Oasis,
shake it
I'm
off.
sorry, nobody cares about Oasis. At least here, maybe across the pond, they're a big deal.
Hold on,
they try to be Beatles.
What is on your
lobsters? It's from what was the movie? Christmas Story. She looked at me like I had lobsters crawling in my ears. I don't know.
Oh,
I use that one, and then if I see a long line, the line stretched all the way out to Terre Haute. I use that one too. That's from Christmas Story. What?
Lobsters in the ear.
Those are my informative
Thought
ears.
That was Star Trek
That's
2,
how I
where
was
the little
shaped.
bug comes out of his ear.
I'm a fan of the movie, but that wouldn't have been the first thing I would have gone to.
Oh, there's a lot of good ones.
Terre Haute, Evans,
Indiana.
no,
Indiana State.
Yep. Yes.
Carl Nix, greatest. Okay, Larry Bird.
He was okay.
I mean, there was that guy. I don't know.
All right, Brian Christopherson, one of the top alums from Omaha North, who now works for Husker 24/7. Going to join us next on 1620 The Zone. All right, welcome back in. Mornings with Sharp and Handley. Jimmy here as well. Last hour, we welcome in Brian Christopherson from Husker 24/7. Welcome to Game Week, BC.
Yeah, happy game week.
This will be home opener number... How many home openers have you covered?
22 or 3.
Congratulations.
Nice. Very nice.
And you will finally get to cover a actual season opener at home, which is so wild in this run of quirky things that have happened with Nebraska football that they haven't started the year at home in a while. And they're starting like with a real non-conference opponent.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you got to take advantage of it. I mean, be lying if I didn't think some of the other setups were favorable enough for Nebraska and some of the matchups they had in like those week 0 games or at Illinois and stuff like that. But this is better, not jumping right into the Big Ten right off the bat. But I think Matt Rule's done a good job of putting enough respect on UTEP's name and a little bit of that fear you got to have about, oh, this could happen if you go -2 in turnovers, and they've got an up-tempo offense and some weapons that they've transferred over there. You got to be on guard. So I get the sense, they've really stressed like you got to check one box at a time right now in this program, and Nebraska hasn't won an opener since 2019. So you start there before you get into Colorado and all these other big ideas that everybody on the outside has.
Well, okay, and that's I think it's a good place to start here with a lot of go back to even Big Ten media days and the question being asked to Matt Rule, what does a successful season look like? And I remember he talked about a lot of different things other than just the record, but wanting to win every game. I love how he said, I'm not looking at a record because if I tell you guys 10-2, then that means I think we're going to lose 2 games, where I'm not in this profession to even think about losing any games. And he's also always been very quick to remind us, and I think in turn his players, that they are still a 5-7 team until proven otherwise. Now, as we get closer to this, just days away from this starting, do you feel like it might be impossible to answer completely, but do you feel like the culture is kind of based on that? That's where the true motivation is that they are a 5-7 team right now.
Yeah, I think some of that. Although, you know what, they'll say that, but they definitely haven't talked, not in a bragging way, but they haven't sounded like a 5-7 team all off season. Like if you go over there and when you're doing interviews with guys, there is definitely a confidence where you're like, really, this team hasn't been to a bowl game since 2016, and like you don't sense that at all. I think the biggest step that Matt Rule wants to see, and that these players need to start showing on Saturday, is I think he loves how this team works behind the scenes. Like he would put them up against anybody in that regard, and just like how much they care and how they go about their daily grind. Now it's about, can you simplify it actually to be the team that you are on a Tuesday practice when nobody's looking, that I like a lot, and be that on Saturday, where you don't let the pressure, the cameras, and all that stuff add this extra layer that overcomes you, and you just do your job, and you have the same discipline that you work on day in, day out. And when I listen to Rule do all these interviews throughout the off season, that's probably the main point that I feel like gets driven home from him, is like, be that team, on a game day that you were on Wednesday. And so that's what we're going to see if they can function like that, not let it be too big for them. I do like the fact, that they're going to let the kid roll. I mean, they're going to let Ryle, be the guy who tries to make plays, and you're not going to ease into it or dip your toes in the water. And I think that's the only way to proceed with a talent like that. And if you want to build a championship type of mindset in your team, honestly.
And if you have a sports car, which they do, you don't buy a sports car and then drive it on residential streets. You take it out on the Dodge Expressway and you turn that puppy up. But with that said, your own belief and your feeling, What are your expectations for another true freshman quarterback coming into this program at this time? Adrian Martinez in 18, I thought the expectations were kind of modest, but it was like, okay, first-year head coach paired with this kid. Now you have a second-year head coach paired with this guy who in the Elite 11 world of 7-on-7, this is the best quarterback Nebraska's ever gotten. But in your opinion, BC, just your opinion, what are your expectations for Dylan in the 2024 season?
Probably higher than I've ever had for a true freshman, honestly. Maybe that's not fair to him, but it's how I feel. And it even goes back to that spring game. There's a play, Rule highlighted it afterward, but it stuck with me, where he's rolling to his right. They're in the red zone, and he ran out of bounds. Instead of throwing across his body, trying to fit it in this very tight window, which he could have done. It's a spring game. He's Dylan Ryle. Everybody wants to see him make that throw, like try to do it. Let's see it, if it happens or not. And he made the smart play, and his coach praised him afterward. And my sense is he's done a lot of that. That was like a snapshot for us to see of what he's done behind the scenes about, taking what's there, where you can get some money out of it. And when you can't, you know when to live for another down. And so I kind of have a high expectation that he's going to be that type of guy for the most part, even as a young player. Now that would be a huge step. Like if you are a true freshman quarterback who has that sort of savvy decision-making when the lights come on, that would be really impressive. But I admit, I kind of have those expectations for him after listening to players, and even like defensive backs have talked about, like he's tough they've had to try to bait him into some throws. I remember one of the veterans in the secondary was saying, we're trying to get some picks off of him, but he's not easy to convince to make some of those throws. And I just think some of that's good signs, but a base level expectation for me is I expect Nebraska's short and intermediate passing game to take a significant jump with him. And I think that's something, at least in that first year, he can definitely do. And it could just be a monster thing for this program if some of those like screen passes that should be layups but haven't been for the last 5 years or so are on the money, and you get like Ja'Cory Barney catching a pass on in stride, and Janarian Bonner's blocking for him, stuff like that. Should be a high percentage play, can turn into explosive plays if you do them right. And that's what I'd love to see this offense really excel at. Of course, we want to see those plays where Dylan will unleash some, 50-yard bomb to Jalen Lloyd here and there. But I think as much it's going to be about that short intermediate stuff. Can it be in rhythm? And can guys take 5-yard passes and turn them into 15-yard passes or something greater sometimes?
And I would agree with you about the intermediate passing game first and foremost. I think that it's going to stand out. Now, you can choose anybody on the offensive side of the football for this next question, but we keep talking about who will help Dylan Ryle the most avoid a lot of the growing pains and a lot of the typical freshman mistakes other than just his natural ability. I want to ask you the question, who do you think we will look back on the end of the season given a healthy Dylan Ryle and say, you know what, they really benefited because 15 was there?
I would say I'm Thomas Fedoni. I think Fedoni. My colleague Michael Bruntz made a good point about if you go back and look at a lot of Fedoni's catches last year, there's a bunch where he's having to catch him behind where he's going, kind of go up off his feet to one-handed or something like that. We just didn't get a ton of those plays where we got to see what he really specialized as a recruit in high school, where it's like, here it is in stride with this big guy barreling down on a defensive back, let him run with the ball. So I think if Raiola can put some of those on target, and he's going to miss some. I'm not acting like he's going I don't know what his completion percentage is going to be, but I do think we're going to see elevated QB play. And I think the tight end spot is going to benefit a lot because of that. That's one part, but also because they do have more weapons at wide receiver this year. They just do. And so with Nayor, with Banks, if Lloyd is who we think he can be in his second year, and some of those other guys, that's going to open up the middle of the field and some really nice matchups for guys like Fedoni and I think Nate Borkercher too. So I expect they'll have really solid years if everybody can stay healthy.
That is a large group at wide receiver. I mean, Nebraska is going to employ wide receivers that are 220 pounds. You make a great point about Banks and Nayor. I think in the middle of the field, it benefits a guy like Jalen Lloyd. I mean, I think Jalen Lloyd will do a lot of work there. Let's go to the other side of the ball. It's a veteran group. It's guys that are back for their second year. It's a staff that, except for a defensive back coach, they've all been together for another year. What should, on the opening game of the season, against an offense that wants to change it up and run a lot of different plays and get you on your heels, a good defense like Nebraska that wants to be a great defense this year, they look like what on Saturday against the great unknown of UTEP?
Well, I mean, the obvious one we've talked about for 8 months is the takeaways. But one thing that you want to see right off the bat to show, okay, they're going to pick up where they left off last year, and then maybe they can add to it, is the tackling. And I remember in last year's opener, obviously a disappointing outcome against Minnesota, but I was really struck by how well Nebraska tackled in that game. And some of that goes to they do let them go physical in practice. It's not a new thing. And we did hear a few scrimmages ago in August 10th or something that they had a practice where it wasn't quite up to Tony White's standards there. So I'm sure he got after them. But if this is a group, and I think they'll get tested in space a little bit on Saturday, can they be that physical crew that opponents can't make a guy miss, or if they do make a guy miss, there's two other Huskers right there, to corral them, just coming in a pack toward the ball. If they can tackle really well in this opener, I think we'll kind of nod our heads and say, okay, it's just that's what it feels like. They've got that base from last year, and now can you add the takeaways and all that other stuff with it? But I just want to see that to confirm that part's still there, and it's not one of those games where, and this does happen in openers sometimes, where you get out there and the other side's slippery to you and you miss 7 or 8 tackles, and it turns it into a game in a hurry when that happens. So that's going to be a big key.
It was kind of a subtle mention. I don't think they're overly concerned that this is going to be lingering into the season, but the Gunnar Gatula injury yesterday, did that raise some eyebrows to you in particular at all?
Not a lot. I mean, it's notable because he's one of the 3rd or 4th tackles now, so at second team, I mean by that. So obviously that's interesting. And Latovsky, I think, is still maybe kind of a week from where they want him, where he can go full go. So you're maybe not full depth now, but it's one of those weeks where you just hope, especially on that side of the ball, you always hope this, but in particular with that you go through it unscathed, don't have a lot of injuries going into Colorado. What's interesting at tackle is a walk-on like Grant Segrin. He really has changed his body from a guy who came in as an in-state kid at, I think he was 260 pounds or listed at that, and now he's 305, and definitely looks the part just like all those scholarship guys. And so he might be the next really nice walk-on story as O-linemen go if he keeps progressing. But it's pretty cool for him that he's backup tackle going in opening game week as a redshirt Frosh, and same for Gunnar to put himself in that position. Those guys obviously have worked hard to get there.
So, and I'm glad you brought up Segrin, because unsolicited late last year, Matt Rule brought him up, and he was a tight end in high school and then became an offensive lineman, which, that's like the Jurgens thing, where they built him up, and he's pretty athletic. So but he hasn't played. So I'm very curious to watch him. And what you bring up about Gatula, and they've got him before the injury, they had him working at both sides because, Donnie likes guys that can play multiple positions and multiple even in your own position group. But with the development of Segrin, the development of Gatula, and again, we haven't seen him play. We know that now they're more in the mix. Does that give you hope that a guy like Bricks and Pyle, who they went hard after in this last recruiting class, but yet aren't ready, that they're on a path where the tackle position could be turning around sooner than later, just by the mere fact of evaluation and development, which has been lacking, and that's why Nebraska has a redshirt freshman walk-on as a backup at tackle.
Yeah, you hope so. And I think Rule's been pretty happy with how they've been developing guys sort of behind the scenes. But there's sort of two storylines going on. There's that group it's the one that's right in front of your face, and then there's that sidebar behind the curtain that is it's almost as important. It's how are those guys like Bricks, like Sam Sledge, some of these guys who, they could be next in line a year from now or so. Like what's going on behind the scenes with them? Are they getting better as the season progresses? That's always really an interesting part of the O-line coaching is you'll have like 16 to 18 guys over there, and you've got like this main 7 that have to really be functioning well. But at the same time, you can't lose sight of your stocks that need to pay off down the road for you, right? And that's why I think it's a big deal with the coaching setup they have at all these positions where they can have multiple coaches on the field now. They've had this in some respects in the past, but they can do it everywhere. And I think Rules pointed this out. It allows young guys to sort of have their own specific coach. Maybe it's not even Donnie that they're working with, as all the time, but there's somebody that's got an eye on them and is watching their progress. And I have to think that's really a big deal to a young guy's mental frame, that he's got someone who's tracking all of his practice reps and as he goes through the fall, even if he's not on the field playing.
BC, I don't like necessarily doing this question before we kick off the season, but it is always part of the storylines of a season that is about to start. I'm not saying hot seat, but who's got the most, what Nebraska coach on that staff has the most to prove this year in his group?
Yeah, I don't think anybody's on the hot seat. I think running back is a position where Coach EJ Barthel would put this on himself too. It's like let's go from good to great, basically. And you heard Rule the other day explain it in very specific terms of about what that looks like. Good is okay. They blocked it for 4 yards and you got 4 yards. Great is they blocked it for 4 and you got, as he said, 12. But I mean, even like 8, you got 8 or 9 when it should have been 3 or 4. And even more than that, to me, a great running back is that guy who gets 3 or 4 when it should have been none and puts you in 2nd and 6. And suddenly you're playing, the down and distance game you want to, as opposed to 2nd and 10 where you're in trouble. So that's what has to be determined in these pretty soon. They like all 4 guys. I think they think all 4 are good. Is there a great one? Who's the great one? And obviously, with that, you tie it to the position coach, and he's always got something riding on how that goes too. So that would be my answer to the question. I think running back in general is a position that you feel okay about, but you want to feel better than okay. You want it to be like, yeah, we got, there's 1 or 2 studs there, and that there's a chance that can happen, but now they got to show it.
What do you think has happened with running back at Nebraska? This is an indictment about the 4 guys that were mentioned yesterday, but this used to be I back you. We had the stretch of, under Bo, we went Halou, Burkhead, Amir, Devine showed up, but then it's been a lot of the portal lately. It's been misses on guys in recruiting. What do you, and it's also, I will also throw this in with guys that are in that room. It's also kind of been a revolving door of their coaches. So with all that said, is there one thing that has maybe limited Nebraska not having the kind of Nebraska running back that we all remember, or is even close to that?
I think it's a combination. It's a change in the coaches, as you mentioned. It's recruiting. They've recruited good guys, but I think in some cases they've struggled to find that great back. And there's been injuries too, like that have thwarted progress. Gabe Ervin, I think, has been a guy who ever since he got here, you could see like he could potentially be really, really good. And he's had 2 serious injuries, and Ramirez obviously dealt with some stuff. And I still don't know everything that went on in the season where they didn't play him much, but I think it's been sort of just disjointed with the coaching change, offensive changes in how they do things. O-line play at times has been pretty inconsistent. And not, frankly, a passing game that in fairness to those running backs, let's see what some of them they can do if you can actually get that passing game unwrapped a little bit. And as Rule talks about a lot, like not have a team load up the box on you, and then suddenly your running backs who are running against 8 in the box look pretty good, and your O-line looks pretty good if you can get that passing game on track. So I think it's a good question. I think it's just one of those that has like 4 or 5 bullet points, and they all weigh about the same on the scale, probably.
Yeah. BC, appreciate it. We'll see you on Saturday. Thank you.
Yep. Thanks, guys.
Last great running back in Nebraska was
great. I mean, I have no problem saying Devine Ezigbo with what he did, but so we're getting this comment made by Fongwei Reldman. Says, no great running back can emerge until the O-line fully performs. Okay, I think that's true in sense of any good running back core, but what we've been talking about a lot in the last month or so with these running backs, and even it's been brought up amongst the coaching staff, is finding that guy when you get to the second level that is got that explosiveness, makes guys miss at the second level, has the separation speed, you know it when you see it type running back. I would say Nebraska hasn't had that since Ezigbo. Ezigbo get out in the second level and he would distance himself. He would make you miss. Was he great? Well, it was a very small sample size because we saw him just 1 year really be able to take over that position. Amir. I mean, that's to me the last great running back that Nebraska's had because you saw that over time.
Yeah, I would include Devine. Great at a school that is known for I back you, it would be Amir.
Yeah.
I'd have to go back to Amir.
Mm-hmm. I mean, Devine had a good year. He had a good year. But yes, Amir on the whole was, you watched him, you needed something big out of him. He gave you that.
I think, and BC's right. I kind of let him into that. There's a multitude of reasons. I think you have to look closely at the coaching. And, I thought Applewhite, like just listening to him and hearing his background, but something didn't click there.
Mm-hmm.
But they're recruiting. They've had guys that were here for a cup of coffee and gone. Look, you go back to Ramir's class. Ramir was a running back in that class, but Ronald Tompkins was thought maybe even higher in that class. Yep. Where's Ronald Tompkins at today? It's a position, and maybe it's a, I think wide receiver recruiting is going to be really good at Nebraska moving forward.
Mm-hmm.
Now that the quarterback running the ball isn't such a focus, does running back recruiting change at Nebraska? Is it more attractive?
That's the thing is you got to be able to make it that way. How you showcase those, how you're able to develop those guys. You've talked about 2 positions today that you're paying for the past sins. And those are 2 that couldn't you say there's a little more importance? I mean, I'm not dismissing the importance of offensive tackle, don't get me wrong, but couldn't you say there's a lot of importance on that position, at least giving you something this year as you do recruit it? Because you have to make that as a position of importance. That way you're going to be able to attract those higher end guys.
Especially offensive line. Like it's unfortunate that Gatula maybe will be back next week, especially in a game where you might be able to play more guys.
Mm-hmm.
This is a year, and especially early on, the older guys have to help the younger guys by putting the game in a situation where they can be done for the day. Because Nebraska, if you look at next year on that offensive line, either you're going to have to pull a rabbit out of your hat in recruiting or go spend some money. I mean, they're going to be young on the offensive line next year.
Mm-hmm.
So, but they've got bodies. They also need to make the transition on the offensive line in recruiting, in my opinion. I think they've recruited some guys that are practice bodies, that they're here to be part of practice.
Mm-hmm.
They're not here to play. They're scholarship guys, but they're practice guys. They have changed now I think they're recruiting guys that are real guys to play. It'd be nice to get them on the field. Like Pyle and Brick, still not ready, but have interesting futures.
Tuamola.
Be nice to play a little bit this year, where they at least get game reps before it's their time in spring.
Yeah.
And I think that's important. So the tackles, I think you're going to see Turner play a lot. I think you're going to see Benhart play a lot, especially on Saturday. It'd be nice where they could take some time off and some younger guys like a Segrin could get on the field.
Yeah.
He's intriguing to me. He was a pretty good athlete in high school. He was a tight end. They made him an offensive lineman. That's the Nebraska dream for some. For some. But this is a year where if they can develop depth and good depth on the offensive line, that'd be a bonus going into 25 because they're going to turn over, some experience. I mean, they're one of the older offensive lines that you're going to find in all of college football. So that's what Gatula not being available this weekend. That stings because he would play this weekend, and he needs to get on the field and play because he's going to be the swing guy if either left or right go down.
Well, and I thought that was a very timely question that you brought up yesterday of what happens if Bryce Benhart gets dinged up for a little bit.
Well,
the guy behind him is not going to be available this weekend. If you're reading between the lines, if an emergency situation, I would hope an emergency situation wouldn't crop up in a game against UTEP to where, okay, well then who would it be next in line? I mean, are you looking at a pile or a bricks because that sounded kind of funny, a pile of bricks. But are you looking at a pile or a brick, say, hey man, just for this game because we got Gunner coming back next week? But that to me would be a very interesting development. Or if you do get to that stage of the game where you want to give Turner a blow at the fourth quarter, Bryce Benhart a blow at the fourth quarter. Are you going with one of the freshmen? Just, hey, we got 4 games to work with here. Maybe now's the time just to get you some reps in there right now too. So it is. I mean, it's for as many people who want to criticize the offensive line and inconsistency. That is one of those things that, and I know we're not ready to even jump to next year, but you're absolutely right on how truly young that group gets next year.
This is, I think on Saturday, you're going to see a lot of guys on defense play. One, because of the style that UTEP has, they're going to put a lot of guys out there. I wonder how many guys will play when the game is still in doubt on offense, what the snap count looks like.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of defensive guys are going to play. But how deep do they go outside of skill guys on offense? That's what I want to see. All right, 34 past the hour. Quick break. We got crossover coming up at the top of the hour. Marty Smith from ESPN just decided he's going to stop by tomorrow. He's got a project he's involved in. Wants to talk some Nebraska football. Marty said, hey, would you like me to come on the show? And we said,
would I?
We said, yes, because the last time you were on, you were fawning over a former football coach here who you had just done a story on.
Oh, yeah. They climbed a mountain, didn't they?
Yes. So Marty Smith of ESPN will join us tomorrow at 1620 The Zone.
1620 The Zone, Liberty First Credit Union Arena presents Ralston Day, sponsored by Liberty First Credit Union and all of our stations, going on August 30th through September 2nd in the Liberty First Credit Union parking lot. Free admission, carnival rides, music, food, and trucks. Also, with fall just around the corner, 1620 The Zone is giving you a chance to win season passes to Nebraska's favorite fall attraction, Vallis Pumpkin Patch. You could win 2 2024 season passes to Vallis and enjoy all the fall family fun that Vallis has to offer. Enter to win right now at 1620thezone.com.
All right, so the Connor Stallions documentary is out on Netflix. As I've gone through more of it, I've come up on the part where he got a game ball for Michigan's 2022 win over Iowa.
Was it deflated by chance just to match our scandals?
So now Iowa, if you're getting a game ball to Connor Stallions for a victory over Iowa, clearly he had a major, major role in that one.
Would he tell him to score 10 points and you win?
Somehow, I don't know if
Stop
Connor
that
Stallions,
Oh, wait, that was 22.
If his scouting report against any type of Iowa offense would have deemed extremely useful or not.
So this part, the clip that has been shared, he received a game ball for deciphering signals. That's what he is saying.
That's what they call it.
Yes.
I used to call it comparing answers.
So it's the win over at Kinnick.
Okay. Oh, okay. Okay.
He said, I actually got the game ball for the Iowa game in 22 for deciphering signals. I'm the only one that has a game ball that says my name. Understanding Coach Harbaugh and his way of coaching, I think that, if anything, it's like, hey, we see you. You're doing a good job. Some of this is, as you watch it, it is different.
I'm detecting this is
the
just
McNair one good at least?
Okay.
That one left some holes.
Yes, it did.
Yeah, I
It
wonder
just
about
all of
the
a sudden-
not the holes in like what they could have talked about.
Yeah.
Oh,
I'm talking about the investigation.
Okay. Yes, it did.
Jeff Fisher came across pretty good though.
Good chest hair action there. But it did from the standpoint of all of a sudden the investigation, they said, okay, I mean, this was the last scene of she did it as a murder-suicide, and then all of a sudden it was just kind of over.
Yeah.
Just like, remember the Johnny Manziel one? All of a sudden, it just abruptly ended.
It's like, wait, is he going on a bender next? Like, what's happening?
The Swamp Kings was
You guys talked me out of that one.
Oh, the Swamp Kings was essentially a PR. If you want Urban Meyer to be your head football coach, he's still out there. Like it was not, from what we've understood from that whole era of Urban Meyer in Florida, it was more of a hype video of those times. It wasn't really depicting a lot of the controversy and some of the knucklehead behavior that was taking place. It was essentially like, this is how hard we worked. It was, so I'm curious if this one is also going to leave you like, oh, this is a great controversy, so I'm going to watch, and then you're going to just watch and be like, that was it? I'm starting to detect this from you, Gary.
Good thing I have the video.
I'm going to watch it today. I don't know if it's going to be worth my time. Do we know what's the running time of this thing? It's 2 hours?
2 hours?
I don't know if it is. I'm just asking.
I got the attention span of a gnat.
So just the brief part I've watched, the firsthand telling of his operation is fascinating.
I'm sure.
But there's part of you that should look at it and go, man, this guy is off the rails.
Yeah.
Because the game ball that he is showing looks like something a fan could purchase. It does.
Jim had an extra one that he forgot to give away at a speaking engagement. He's like, here you go, buddy.
The Wilson Pee Wee ball.
Well, at this point, you don't know who to believe.
Right.
I mean, I think he might be a serial whack job who is a diehard Michigan fan who loves college football that somehow like wanted to be part of the gang.
Yeah, like I want to be.
Yeah. That, hey, if I want to get noticed, I got to do this. And then probably some underling found out about it, and they're like, hey, great. Hey, you want to impress Coach Harbaugh? Just keep doing this, man. Just keep doing this.
Are you trying to, now, I don't want to put the type of controversy on this next person I'm about to bring up to as what Connor Stallions has been found guilty of. But are you talking about a similar character like Red Lightning? I feel like he had the same thing you're describing where, you know what? I'm just a ball boy, but gosh dang it, I'm going to make my mark. And boy, did he. Remember all the ladies that wanted to post pictures with old red lightning?
Yes.
I have to educate
Real
me
quick
on
question
this.
about this Iowa game, by the way. If Connor Stallions is not able to decipher signals, do they still have a shutout going into the fourth quarter? I'm going to guess yes. I don't think they needed Connor Stallions for that game. Call me crazy.
We'll take a break. We come back. There is a former Husker that is in the news who had his Huskerism taken away, and now he's back. He's got a brand new job that we'll tell you about when we close out the show next. All right, to wrap the show on a Tuesday, been talking a lot about running backs, where it was death taxes and Nebraska would have a 1,000-yard rusher. Still kind of a little bit hard to put your arms around. It took until 2018 for Nebraska to get a 1,000-yard wide receiver.
Yeah.
In Stanley Morgan.
Mm-hmm.
And where maybe now moving forward, the wide receiver position at Nebraska could be the sexy NFL position. We had a bunch of kickers. Kickers used to be the position for Nebraska. Then it's become tight ends.
Could we become wide receiver you? Whoa. When you've lived long enough, you live long enough to see it all, don't you?
I mean,
maybe some quarterbacks getting drafted.
You could attract. Well, they use the 3 letters a lot. There has not been a press conference.
You're absolutely right.
That Matt Rule has had in the last 6 months where he has not mentioned 3 letters, NFL.
Yep.
Whether there's things they're taken from the NFL, whether I was in the NFL, or we're trying to get guys to the NFL and guys want to go to the NFL. NFL.
Yep.
Could wide receiver you exist at Nebraska?
Doesn't even talk about guys moving on from the program to graduate, which I think that's a given. That goes without saying, and I know that's important to Matt Rule, but he talks about, when guys leave to the NFL, we got to get these next guys ready. So, yeah, and I've noticed it over the last year compared to last year. It's been said basically every interaction that he has that it's implied that we've got NFL guys.
All right, we have news of a former Husker who was asked not to come back to his job. He has a new job this morning.
Just this morning? He just picked up some work this morning?
Is this just got his job? No. Well, no, it's not.
Okay.
So now,
making sure.
Now you're like, oh, it isn't Frost. I know that's what the reaction is.
It crossed my mind, too, but I didn't think.
But a good hire for a good guy. Jeff Christie has just been hired as the new baseball coach at Nebraska Wesleyan. Former
That's awesome.
Husker catcher, former Minnesota Twin farmhand.
Yeah.
Spent some time in Fort Myers, Florida.
Oh, yeah.
Him and I went to the orange juice shop once when he was playing for the Miracle.
Oh.
And then, came back and was the pitching coach, and then was relieved of his duties before this past season. He is staying in Lincoln, and he is now the head coach at Nebraska Wesleyan.
Hope he sticks around to when Reese is out of high school, because he gave Reese a baseball. We could use that as an icebreaker to get him on a baseball team there too. He's awesome. Jeff was in the short time that when he was there and I was doing baseball games and on the road, that was one of the guys I talked to the most. We would usually be on a treadmill next to each other talking. No, just a great dude. And some of the faults of the pitching staff, you take some of the blame. Not all of it was him. He's a guy that I think is still highly regarded as one of the better players that we've seen as far as when it came to at the catching position as well. Part of a College World Series, part of a lot of the best memories of Nebraska baseball, including their most recent Big Ten championship in the regular season. So that's good. And I'm glad to see that he's still in Lincoln. He's going to be able to take on that role, because I think that is a great spot for him.
Yeah. So congratulations to Jeff. Good hire by Nebraska Wesleyan. All right, that'll do it for the show. Big thanks to Sam McEwen, Brian Christopherson, and y'all. We had so much fun. We'll do it again tomorrow. Think about your favorite 3. Because as of right now,
number 3.
Right now, we are Tommy Armstrong days away from the start of the season.
Got some ideas.
I do.
We'll do that tomorrow.
That's
coming up at 6. Crossover is next on 1620 The Zone.